Welcome everyone to another live stream, and today's live stream is going to be I say debate, but it's going to be a discussion with someone who has been watching some of my videos, someone who's not a vegan, and has made a few comments on some videos, asked a few questions, and yeah, basically was up to come on and have a chat and see what we agree on and see what we disagree on, and get to the bottom of what's been going on. We're going to talk about a few of the comments that this gent has been making. Nothing bad. No, we're not talking about a meat flake here. We're not talking about a troll. Let me clarify that. The individual that I was talking about in my community tab, that's not this individual, that's somebody else. Just want to make that clear. But yeah, we're gonna bring him in. We're gonna have a chat. We're gonna get into this, and then yeah, it's gonna be an interesting debate, discussion, whatever you want to call it. In terms of what I know about this gent, not too much, so I'll give you a quick introduction of how we came in contact. So his name's Dominic, and he's been watching the videos for a little while on this channel. Had made a few, as I said, a few comments that, I don't know, we'll see what you think. I mean, without a tone of voice, you can't really tell how the comments are being made, but they were definitely not pro-vegan comments, let's put it that way, which is what's led to this discussion being set up and to having Dominic come on. So I would like that you keep it respectful, please. In the comments section, in the live chat, sorry, keep it respectful. No insults, name calling and stuff like that. It's not that kind of thing. You know, if you've watched my debate videos or whatever kind of videos before, you know that I'm not into that, you know, calling each other names in the live chat, unless someone's doing something that is deserving of it, like they just come in and troll and stuff like that. Yeah, obviously, I'm with you. No respect for trolls, but that's not what this is, all right? So let's definitely keep that in mind. And if you do make any contributions via the Streamlabs link that's in the pinned comment, or by super chats, I may talk about your super chat as you make it. It depends on the context and whether it's relevant and whether I feel like it's a good time to talk about it. But don't worry, if I miss your super chat, if I missed your donation, at the end of the stream, I will go through all of them and I will read them all out and I will say thank you, and we'll discuss the topics that you make, the comments that you made. All right. So if you want to contribute, still do it, but don't be annoyed if I don't read it right away. I will definitely get to it at the end. Okay. All good. So all that being said, let's bring Dominic in and let's kick off the chat. Just unmute you. There we go. Hi, Dominic. Welcome.
Morning. Well, morning here. How's it going, David?
Yeah, it's 6 p.m. here, so yeah, we're opposite ends of the spectrum. All good on my side, man. All good.
Yeah, definitely still the AM here. I'm still drinking coffee.
Yeah, nice. So thanks again for agreeing to come on, and I think it's important to mention at this point that, you know, not many people actually agree to come and talk on the channel. A lot of people like to, not that you weren't doing this, but maybe you were doing this, I don't know, but lots of people like to chat shit in the comments. They very rarely actually come on and see it through. A lot of people are happy to hide behind the keyboard and say lots of stuff, but they refuse to come online and actually, you know, talk face to face. So I do definitely appreciate you coming on and you know, having this discussion, and as you called it, a dialogue, right? That's what you've said all along, that I want a dialogue. I can appreciate that, and I definitely much rather it go this way than the community tab. If you saw that post today, I made a community post. Someone emailed me demanding that I paid him to come on to talk because he just basically hates vegans that much that he wanted paying to come on and defend his views because he was trolling, you know. So I appreciate you being reasonable and coming on to do this. Yeah.
No, I honestly, I like listening to various conversations, regardless of whether or not I agree or disagree. I think you learn from having dialogue and speaking to people that aren't in the same echo chamber as you. That's the way your message reaches more people. And I would say, honestly, one of the reasons why I get into vegan discussions is because I think I'm that person that vegans should be looking to get on your side as an advocate. You know, like you said, you gave a small intro, but a little bit of intro about me. You know, I'm 37. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4 children. I lead my family. So I am just in that small context, I am the person that you would want to reach because I lead at a minimum 5 people in their decision making and what happens. So if I'm convinced with something, if I'm able to lead my family the best way, give them the best information, they'll follow.
Sure.
So that's why I think I'm the type of person that should be having these type of discussions. Plus, obviously, I have a little bit of money to be able to, make influence with my dollar as well.
Sure, sure, absolutely. I think that last point, especially, I agree with that. We've all got a power. You know, if we're spending money in well, everyone's spending money in supermarkets, so everyone has that power to make a big difference in where they put that money. So let's kick off with the discussion, and I want to kick off with actually, I think a really good place to start is I made a community post on my YouTube community tab the other day that was what's holding you back from going vegan, and I think this is why I titled the video this way. Why aren't you vegan yet, or whatever it was I titled the video? But I felt this was a good topic to start with. I'm just putting this up on the screen now, as I can't share my screen really in a good way, so I put it up here instead. I asked the question, what is holding you back from going vegan? And then this was your response. Tough question to give a simple answer, but if I were to give a simple answer, I'd say it's not wrong to eat meat. I think that's a really good place for us to kick off with. So I'll leave it up for now so people can read it. But could you, like, maybe to start us off, like, elaborate on that point, as you know, you made this point in another comment that you would prefer to elaborate on camera, as there's, you know, sometimes these things aren't so easy to explain. So
Right.
I'd love to hear a bit more about this, where this comes from.
Yeah, it's tough to write down everything that you think about, say everything perfectly in written word at times, especially without an editor. So it's easier to do things on video, I
Sure.
would say. Um, Honestly, I really just don't believe that that it's wrong to eat meat. I think what happens is we go through extremes and we think about the process as opposed to the actual act. And a lot of times people, even vegans, are able to separate the fact that, yeah, I mean, if you ate roadkill, that would be fine. Well, that's eating meat. So or you name, vegan products meat, so to get people on board. So in my mind, I really don't see where actually eating meat is the problem. I think the process in which we go about doing it is what people really have the issue with. And that's probably the best way that I can put it, because I think that's really just what it boils down to, is that people just don't like the process.
So what? Just leaving aside the 2 points, roadkill and vegan meat. I think these are two completely separate, like, discussion points. But focusing on the process, then. So you you personally, like, you personally don't see a problem with the process. Is that what you say? Is that why you think it's not wrong to eat meat, or are you saying you do see a problem with the process? I don't understand the process part. Can you explain that to
Correct.
me? Basically, is what I'm trying to
So I
say.
think there are elements within the process that I just don't understand why they happen to begin with,
Right.
like artificially inseminating cows.
Yeah.
That part I don't understand. In my mind, I'm just like, why wouldn't you just let the cows have fun, procreate that way, and you know,
Right.
sort of have their offspring
Yeah.
that
Just
way,
do it themselves.
and right. Well, I just don't understand that. Um, I also don't understand why we don't find a market, maybe. And it's weird to say this, and I know it's going to be weird when I say it, why
Right.
there isn't a market for human breast milk to be drank
Okay.
if we really need milk. Like, you know, um, why kill male chicks the minute that they're born? Like these
Yeah.
things I have a problem with, because I don't understand why they're done. I mean, I
Okay.
get, like, at least maybe financially they might be a drain, I guess. So from that aspect I get, but other
Yeah.
than that, I really don't understand why those things are done. Other than that, again, those are probably the things that really stand out the most.
Right. Those are the things. Yeah. So those that we have a problem with. So I mean, artificial insemination. The reason it happens is down to there is a well, there's not an there is a demand for the product that is coming from the cows, right? Whatever it is, milk, cheese, cream, whatever. There's demand for it, and not only that demand, even if there wasn't a demand for it, the governments are subsidizing it, right? So regardless, there is demand, either fake demand that's supplemented by the government, or a real demand depending on the country you're in. So
Sure.
the farmers have a very tight profit margins, and they can't leave it to chance as to whether a cow gets pregnant or not. They can't risk it. It needs to be timely. It needs to be, like, processed. It needs to be strategic. So artificial insemination is incredibly effective. That's why they do it. It's extremely effective. It's by far the most effective way to get milk from cows. They need to get pregnant. Obviously, they don't just produce milk. They're like mammals, like us, like human females, don't just randomly produce milk. They need to be pregnant. So this is part of the system that they put into place to make sure that's all timely and to make sure they can get maximum profits with minimum downtime. And the cows will go through this cycle of being artificially inseminated, and then they have the calf, and the calf is removed. And then you mentioned the male chicks, right? You're crushing the male chicks, or whatever, macerating them or gassing them, whichever way they do
Right.
it. This is common not just in the egg industry, that's also in the dairy industry. So if a calf is born male, then they are seen as a waste product for the dairy industry, just the same as male chicks are seen as a waste product in the egg industry. They're all discarded of in the most, what they call, efficient way possible. So if it's a male dairy calf, and obviously that's the practically useless for that industry, so they'll sell them off to the meat and leather industry. Just get rid of them, sell them for dog food, whatever it is. They get rid of them. They sell them to be killed as a calf, that is. And if they're a female, they go through that same process that the mother went through, and this goes on and on and on until either the mother produces less milk and then she'll be sent to slaughter, or until she completely stops. Like the mother, a lot of the times they call them downer cows. A lot of them, they just collapse one day. They just exhaustion, and then it's they'll send them to slaughter. So the outcome of all of these industries is, for all of these animals, is slaughter, basically. And you asked about human breast milk as well. So why don't people drink the human breast milk? And if we need milk, well, you already nailed the point on the head, right there on the head. We don't need milk. That's why no one's drinking breast milk.
Sure.
If we human breast milk, I mean, that's why.
Sure.
Cow breast milk has just become a cultural thing. So what I see here is that I see, just to ask you a question, I see that you have take issue with AI, take issue with the grinding of the male chicks, and I understandably understand why you would do that. Do you also take issue with what happens to all of the other animals then? Because I mean, the AI is obviously horrible. Crushing the male chicks is horrible. But I mean, even if that wasn't happening, to get the meat from an animal, they've got to go to by far the worst place on earth, a slaughterhouse. And then they've got to either be, well, one of a few things could happen. They either get shot in the head with a bolt gun, and that's not to kill them, that's just to stun them. And then they slit the throat to kill them. And that's standard practice worldwide. Or if it's halal, they don't do the bolt gun, they just slit the throat. But the throat is slit, no matter where they are in the world, that happens. And then, that's does that, how about that as a thing? The other things bothered you. Does that also bother you, the idea of that happening, or are you okay with that?
Right. So bother, I more so, instead of bother, I more so say it's interesting. I just I don't understand why those things are done. If we want to continue to eat or use animal products and eliminate some of these certain moral dilemmas, making the process better would eliminate certain things. At the end of the day, it doesn't eliminate the fact that to eat meat, something has to die. It doesn't eliminate that. There's nothing that you can do to eliminate that. So I think what you can do in the middle is what should be worked on if people want to still eat meat. To answer the question about do the other processes make me feel, do they bother me? Honestly, I would say on mass at the scale that it's done, yes. It happening in general, no, because honestly, I don't think these animals live a rosy, happy life outside of the slaughterhouse, anyways. I don't think pigs live a happy life. I don't think any animal really lives a happy life. I think they just live life. They're essentially, sentient robots,
Okay.
essentially. So I don't think they live a happier life. A lot of these animals, especially chickens, would end up being killed anyways, or hunted by cats or birds or other birds or foxes or something like that. So these animals, it's not like if if unaffected by humans, would live to be 20, live their entire lifespan. I don't view it that way, and I think that's where the problem comes in. A lot of vegans tend to believe that if untouched by humans, their lives would be great, or that's the perception, right? I'll just say that's
Mm,
the perception,
sure.
and that's not really the case. I mean, nature is terrible,
Yeah,
especially untouched by humans, even touched by humans, as we can see with what we're doing
sure.
in the industry. But the nature is just as bad. It's just as cruel. It's just as cutthroat,
Hmm.
and it's just as dog eat dog. So to again piggyback, I mean to go back to the original question, does it bother
Yep.
me
Yep.
en masse? Yes. Um, but does it actually bother me that a pig or a cow is slaughtered, killed, murdered, whichever word you choose to use?
Sure.
No, no.
So yeah, you've talked about nature there, which is interesting. The idea, I think, there's a misconception with a lot of people that the animals that are being killed for meat for humans in this mass procedures, that they are somehow that they somehow have anything to do with any kind of natural ecosystem. I mean, there is absolutely nothing natural. The natural word, when I say natural, I mean as in existing without humans creating them, right? As in, like, obviously there are wild animals and there are domesticated animals. These animals are domesticated, and they've been domesticated to the point where they, some more often than not, don't even resemble, barely even resemble the animals that they once were in the wild, right? Look at
Mm-hmm.
cows; they don't
Mm-hmm.
exist in the wild. Not the
Yep.
cows that are used now. So when we're talking about, nature versus kind of what we're doing, it's not really a comparable. I mean, we humans are breeding them into existence and then slitting their throats and eating them. So although nature is definitely cruel, and it is violent, and these things do happen in nature, this isn't what we're discussing here. We're not talking about tribes of humans who are going out, and we're not discussing, oh, how do they kill them, and is this okay, does this bother you? For
Mm-hmm.
me, I'd agree with you if that were the case. Like, okay, yeah, there is a tribe in somewhere in the rainforest in Brazil somewhere, and they're going out and killing animals. Does that bother you? I'd say, well, yeah, I wouldn't like to watch that happening. I would feel bad for the animal, but
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, I'd have to accept and suck it up because they don't have a choice, and it's either them or the animal. And obviously, we're all going to choose ourselves, aren't we? In that situation, it's me or you. I'm
Sure.
going to choose me, right? So I can't judge, and I wouldn't judge them. But this isn't the scenario that me and you are in. We're in a scenario where we get to decide what to do about this. We get to decide whether we're going to um, pay people to breed these animals into existence, or even we get to decide whether we're going to go out and shoot them in the wild because we can choose to do it or not do it.
Mm-hmm.
What I'm kind of stuck on here is that if we can choose not to do it, why would we not choose to not do it? That seems like,
Right.
for anyone who claims themselves to be a caring person or someone who tries to do well by others, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, why are we drawing the line just to other humans? Why don't we also extend that and give the same respect we give to dogs to all
Right.
the other animals that are out, that we don't need to kill?
Right. Yeah, oh, excuse me. That's a good question. And honestly, that's a individual question that each person has to answer for themselves. Um, for I'll give you an extreme like this. If I'm gonna be vegan, I want animals kicked out of human society. 1,000%. No cows, no chickens, no dogs, no cats, no fish, no nothing. I'll be vegan if that were the case. I don't think non-moral agents deserve to be taken care of by moral agents. Meaning, if they're not going to produce in the society, that's fine. And if we're going to decide not to abuse them, eat them,
Right.
use them in any sort of way,
Yeah.
100%, that's fine. I would say they don't deserve to be in a human moral society. They have no
Okay.
rights because they're not moral agents.
Because they're not moral agents. Okay. Could I ask, would you say the same thing for someone who was born with a debilitating disability that meant that they could never be a moral agent? Would you also want them out of society, or would they count just simply because they're human?
I counter that question by saying, what are the majority of humans? Are they moral agents or not? So
Sure.
again, this is
Yeah.
where the problem comes in, because now you're going to the extreme of, okay, so we have handicapped people. So are they moral agents? The majority of humans aren't handicapped.
Sure, but there's still a massive minority of there's a lot of humans, and there's a lot of humans that need the care of humans with moral agency to take them through the day because they can't make decisions. My youngest brother being one example. This is a personal thing for
Sure.
me. He has no moral agency. He doesn't know right from wrong. Like honestly, you could tell him to do pretty much anything, and if you convinced him enough, he would just do it. You know, he's not capable of making the decision by himself that this is good or bad. He'll just listen to you. Therefore, like what your kind of claim comes to there is I have to understand that as unless you draw a line between species, which I'd say is arbitrary at this point. If we're talking about purely on moral agency, then he would not be included in this society by that
It
logic. So I'm trying
right.
to
It's
understand
not.
it.
It wouldn't be arbitrary if you have to take care of something that en masse could never take care of you. That's not. It's not arbitrary. It's just fact. Like a dog could never take care of you. A dog couldn't go to work and pay your bills and
Sure,
take
but
care of you. They're like
but
you're
neither could my
useless.
brother. Neither
No,
could my
I,
brother.
I understand that, but you said your
Yeah,
brother. Is that what your
yeah.
mom is like? Is that what your dad is like? Your sister, your cousin, your girlfriend, all your other family members, or is it just your brother? What is the percentage of humans that fall into that category versus the amount of animals or the amount of people that don't fall into that category, right? So like if 99% of people are fully functional, we'll just put it like that,
Yeah.
95% fully functional, whatever, and 5% have to be taken care of by the 95%, that makes sense because the species matters at that point. But 99, if not 100% of animals need to be taking care of humans because they can't take care of themselves, right?
If they are if they've been bred
Yes,
into existence by humans, yeah.
exactly. So that's 100%. They 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 offer zero utility except for your own selfish happiness, which then becomes the
Hmm.
problem, right? People keep dogs mostly because of selfish desires, because either they are practicing to have a child or because they just want a companion or whatever the case is. They're
Mm,
not keeping them for their better good. They're doing it for their own selfish reasons. Dogs
right.
would be able to survive out in the wild without humans. Your brother
Yeah.
couldn't, but 95% of humans can.
Okay, I'm trying to. Let me try and like understand if I can just get this. Tell me if I'm right or wrong here. So
Sure.
the point is that as the majority of animals, for example, couldn't give back to you. Um, the only way you would be a vegan, so as to be stop contributing to all of this violence to these animals, is if they were removed from society because otherwise it's not fair. Is basically what you're saying. Like they can't give me something in return for me not killing them. So unless they go away, I'm going to keep killing them. Am I understanding this correctly? I'm trying to understand how it's linked with the reason to not be vegan that they
Yeah.
are still in our society. If that makes sense, I don't really
Sure. I
get that
mean,
part.
it's fair to sum it up that way, because of the sides of the spectrum that we're on. So I can accept that, but they just offer no utility. I would leave them, basically leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. That sort of thing, right? So go to your corner of the world, go to the forest, that sort of thing.
Mm,
I'll never touch you. I won't harm you. I won't do anything to you. You get to
right.
live your 2 years of life until a fox comes and gets you as a chicken,
Sure.
and or you get to live 5 years as a cow until all the wolves come and get you. 100%, you can do that.
Right.
And I'll have zero influence in that. But I don't want my resources to have to go towards your survival.
Right. But I don't know a world that you would currently be living in where that would be the case. If you went vegan tomorrow, none of your personal resources would go to
That's not
any.
true. They would have to go to some sort of sanctuary to be taken care of, and they would have to be subsidized by the taxpayers or
Oh, wait.
donators and stuff of that sort. So
Oh, right.
they would have to be
See,
taken care of by people, and I wouldn't think that's right.
well, so I
Release
think,
them.
yeah, I understand. I think you're in the, so the position yeah, I think I understand the point here. So I think the again, another misconception is that if we stopped eating them, then they would be overrun. But
No,
that's not the
no,
case.
nope. I don't
But
think they would
then,
be. They would breed less. I 100% understand
well, no,
that.
no, no, but they're not breeding full stop. The farmers are breeding them like, by artificial insemination or keeping them all crammed in one place together, so they breed in crazy numbers. If
No,
we
yep.
if the majority of people stopped funding that, then there wouldn't be there wouldn't be a need for sanctuaries eventually. I mean, in the short
Right.
term, yeah, obviously,
Eventually, right. That's the point that I'm
yeah,
making. Eventually,
right,
there wouldn't be a need for that, and they would be
no,
off in the wild, and humans would never have any contact with them. I think we
right,
are actually on the same page, but it just sounds like we're not. I completely understand what it is that you're saying. They would stop breeding en masse. There wouldn't be billions of animals if they weren't used in the meat
industries, yeah.
industry and all these different industries. Full stop, 100% understand that. But also with that, all that exists now would have to be taken care of by humans unless you would be an immoral person and just throw them into the wild and have them survive on their own. And I would then say that that now questions your morality as a vegan if you just sent them off and
Yeah.
didn't take care of them. You get what I'm saying?
So
So it's
so
you still have to take care of them, and they provide zero utility. Obviously, they wouldn't breed in mass. They wouldn't breed into the billions, but eventually they would sort of level out a little bit, maybe except for wild pigs,
mhm.
but they would level out and maybe even cease to exist.
All right. So I mean, again, let me just clarify. I'm getting this properly. Um, you with your dollar, your concern is that currently your dollar goes and funds these industries, and um, it's funding the things that we've mentioned. So it's funding let's be clear about what we're paying for here. If we're not a vegan and we have the choice to be, right, this is not a necessity for you, right, so for anyone. So what we're funding is these animals to be bred by farmers, to be used if the body's manipulated. If it's in the dairy industry and the egg industry, they get used for their eggs, for their milk, and they're forcibly bred, artificial insemination, and this is what's going on. And then in the meat industry, it's the same thing, except the bodies aren't manipulated directly for those things. It's for the meat, and they all go to the slaughterhouse, and all this is happening, and it's all violent, and it's not necessary. I don't think we need to get into like, is this necessary or not? I think we both know there are plenty of vegans out there of all shapes and sizes that are living perfectly healthily, and there are plenty of unhealthy vegans out there too. But that's life, right? There are plenty of healthy non-vegans, plenty of healthy non-vegans, non-healthy non-vegans too. I don't think that's a debate that we need to have. But you prefer to pay for all of that violence versus because it gives you some kind of utility in that you enjoy eating it or whatever it is. It's convenient.
Do you believe that life? Do you
Versus,
believe that life is transactional? I apologize for cutting you off, but do you believe that life is transactional?
I'll just finish this point for a second, and I'll come back to that. I need to because that would be a whole other topic. I think. Let me just finish this point. So then there's that arm and that choice, or there's the other choice in that potentially, maybe, no, we don't even know if this is true or not. If the whole industry start to stop, like because everybody's going vegan, there would potentially be sanctuaries, and instead of your money going towards those industries that use them in violent ways, it would go towards industries or whatever government run things that keep them whatever safe and care for them. And that's a problem to you. I don't understand how that's a problem. Like, you're simply transferring your money from violence to non-violence. Yes, the non-violent way maybe doesn't give you utility personally, but I can't understand how paying for violence is preferable to paying for the opposite. That's where I'm a bit stuck. And I don't. And the question you asked is, what was it? Sorry, the question you just asked.
Do you believe life is transactional?
I don't know. You'll have to
Do
elaborate.
you
I don't
believe that
understand.
you do something to get something?
I think there is. I don't
You
believe
go
there's any.
you go to work,
Yeah.
you get money. You go to the store, you buy something that you want, and you have to give them money. Do you believe that life is transactional? You give to your girlfriend so she could give love back.
I
Do you believe that life is transactional?
I would
Or
say.
no? Because I think that's where
Yeah.
a lot of problems come into play with these thinking, because a lot of things sound great on paper morally or subjectively sound great
Right.
on paper, but humans don't typically live without transaction.
Right. I understand.
Everything people tend to do is transactional.
Sure. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. To answer the question, I don't believe there's any such thing as a selfless
Right.
good deed. I think
Sure.
obviously every good deed that you do, you take something from it. Whether it's like, oh, I feel good about that, or you feel good about doing the right thing, whatever it is. Yeah. So I
Right.
suppose in a way it is kind of like saying it's transactional, but I don't believe everybody consciously does something to get something back. I think it's more subconscious. If I was to make a place on that, I think a lot of people would say they do things without expecting something in return, but
Right.
subconsciously we're all doing things because of the feelings we get,
Right.
either
Right.
good
Right.
or bad, aren't we? So
So again, that leads into why someone would have that type of thinking. It doesn't compute to everyone because when essentially when you find out something, when you become vegan, it's like being, I would equate it to like being out of the matrix and you think everything now that you do is right. Your all of the opinions that you make are right, all of the moral decisions, everything is 100% right because you've been unplugged from the matrix and you now have a higher knowledge and higher, moral
oh, some
agency
people,
over.
yeah, for
Yeah,
sure. Some
for
some
sure, for sure,
vegans, some vegans
for
definitely.
sure. But you're still living transactionally. You're still doing the same things you're doing. It just happens in a different way a lot of times because humans just can't live without um, transactional uh, being, without transactional actions, I should say. And we also come to that. We all do, regardless of whether or not we believe we do or not. We all do. And you said it perfectly by saying it's subconscious. Yeah, it is subconscious. That's why a lot of people are able to take it out of their mind because it is subconscious.
Right. I'm still, but I guess I'd go back around to the point again, in that if you could explain, I don't know, maybe you could, maybe you think you did explain that, but I missed it, I suppose.
No
How we go
worries.
from, like what is so wrong, or what in your mind, what is so wrong, or what is so, I don't know, not working for you, and taking the money that is currently going towards all of those things that are unnecessary and violent, and putting them into, and even this isn't even proven that it would happen, but let's imagine this is the world right now. You can either pay for the violence towards them, or you can, or not even, or as much money as paying for meat and dairy. Let's say, like, it wouldn't be as much as that. Some of your taxes would go towards the sanctuaries instead. So you would take the money back instead, or you'd be spending it on other things, other food and whatnot. And some of your taxes would go towards sanctuaries. I don't. I still. I guess I'm stuck there. I don't see how that could be a problem. I don't. Like, can you explain why? What's the benefit of the money going? Not the benefit, but what? Why do you want the
Yeah,
money to go
it's
towards
a
that
tough
rather than that?
question.
I suppose is what
No,
I'm
no,
trying
for
to
sure,
ask.
for sure, for sure. It's a tough question and it's a
Yeah.
tough answer because it's all subjective. It's all just opinion. Um, I think it's a waste of resources. I think it's a waste of resources because I believe life is transactional, um, and um, without having animals in the society in the way that they are, they're useless to humans. They offer no benefit, no utility. So to pay for anything for them to exist and offer nothing, just it seems like a waste of resources. And if that gets applied to something else, a lot of people get upset with where their tax dollar goes. A lot of people get upset if it goes to military. A lot of people get upset if it goes to school or if it goes to police departments or whatever the case is. People get upset all the time where their tax dollars go, and it's for reasons that are personal to them. For me, when it comes to this particular scenario, I would say it's because it's a waste of resources. They offer nothing to society if they aren't a part of it the way that it is. I'm not saying that it's right the way that they are a part of it because I do have issues um, with a lot of the practices that go into procuring food and using animal products. I understand that it's a terrible system, um, but again, if I were to live in that world without animal products being used, okay, you legislate it, that's fine. You'd have to eliminate them into anything that has to do with human society.
Right. But if going through on that logic all the way through, the only way you can get to that point is by re- rejecting the systems that are in place that are putting them through all this violence, and going through the processes to get to the point where they are no longer dependent, where humans are no longer depending on them
Yeah.
for pleasure like burgers, because it's not necessity we're talking about here, and where they are no longer dependent on humans because they are no longer a part of our system. But you can only fix this problem by first addressing step one. We can't just jump to step 100. It has to be a process from, first of all, stopping funding those systems that we all have a problem with, like
Right.
you've
But
just said you
I
have a
think,
problem with.
yeah, I think you also believe that animals deserve rights. And that's just what it sounds like. And I think that's what a lot of vegans believe, at least from the things that I hear, that they
Hmm.
deserve rights. I don't. I don't believe that. Um, if again, if we come to the agreement as human moral agents, that we are that live in a moral community that are no longer going to practice this sort of behavior. I unfortunately, because I don't have an attachment to animals, I would
Yeah.
say 100% release them into the wild. For those that do have an attachment to animals, this is where these questions like this come in. Oh, why don't your tax dollars? Why shouldn't your tax dollars go to something better as opposed to XYZ, whatever, right?
Yeah.
I don't have that attachment, so I would say give them their autonomy and 100% release them into animal societies, and exile them from any type of human interaction.
So I think I kind of actually think this idea that you've put over, this importance you've put over moral agency as to whether or not they are deserving of whatever assistance or help. I find it to be really quite arbitrary. Actually, it seems like it's kind of, it honestly reminds me of, and don't take this the wrong way, but it really does remind me of a kind of like the kind of comment that someone a couple of 100 years ago would have been saying about, black slaves, like, oh, they don't have this, they're not the same as us, so therefore they don't deserve to be cared for. Like, when we stop using them, we set them free, they can't offer us anything anymore, so there's no need for me to care for them because they can't do anything for me anymore. And this idea that, because in that time the arbitrary difference, well, that people, okay, well, people
I
then they thought they had no moral
I
agency, they
think
thought
it
they weren't human,
yeah,
you
I think
know
it's very
um
difficult to
just
go
that
into that topic.
should
I think it's
just
very difficult to go into that topic because there are religious reasons as to why things of that sort happen, and without having proper knowledge of all of that, we just say surface level stuff that can be spliced into racist sort of innuendos. And I would prefer not to go that sort of route because people don't have enough knowledge in that area to actually speak on it. Just like I don't think it would be right for either of us to speak on health because there isn't a DR in front of my name or an MD after. So anything I say just comes from whatever source you or I we choose to read. So that's a
Oh
difficult
yeah,
thing
sure. We
to
don't need to
really
use
get
that.
on.
We don't need to use that example, but we can talk about. Okay, we talk about 2021. Yeah, people. There are many people that hold arbitrary, modern day
Sure.
racists, modern day sexists that had to hold this arbitrary point that this person doesn't deserve my time or my money or my help because they are a this or they are a that.
Sure.
This idea of moral agency being the defining point as to whether someone deserves to not have their throat slit or not. It feels like it's another arbitrary line that is being. Frankly, I think it's being drawn because actually to consider that they are deserving of that, even though they don't have moral agency. They are animals. Like 99% of them, as you said, are at the exact same level as I mentioned earlier, a highly disabled human, or even not heavily disabled, even just a human who has like not like autism, for example. They don't have moral agency, autistic people, but they're completely
Mhm.
capable, but they don't have moral agency. For example, there are many people, humans who are disabled, that can't offer society anything at all, nothing, but we still care for them. And it seems like actually the arbitrary line in this case isn't moral agency, it's the species of them. It's because they're a human, and so therefore they deserve help from all the other humans. And
But
these other animals
we,
aren't human,
yeah,
therefore they don't deserve help. And that seems to be the line,
yeah,
really.
no, I agree. I understand what you're saying. The problem is that when we're talking as such, like you just did,
Yeah.
we're acting as if two things can't be true at the same time. Two things can't be true at the same time. You can take care of a species because they belong to your species and not take care of another one because they don't belong to yours. Your morality doesn't have to be the same for everything. Like we act as if we have to always act the same way. You don't act the same towards your mom as you do your dad, probably. You don't act, I know I don't act the same towards my mom as I do my dad, but we're the same species. We come from this, we came
Yeah,
from the same place, but you act different with everything. And
sure, sure.
we act as if that we can't hold two different beliefs or two different moral systems or two different feelings of something,
Yeah, yeah.
at the
But
same time. And
uh,
that's where this problem comes into play.
just
Like,
to just interject it in the sense like, oh, I like the whole talk this way with my mum, talk this way with my dad, to compare that to it being, all right, I will help this disabled person that has no moral agency because they're a human, and I will pay for this animal to have their throat slit because they're another animal. It's not quite like holding two opinions at once. Like, this is an extremely dangerous and violent position to hold here. This is treating two individuals very, very differently. It's not just like, I talk to this individual this way because they're human, and I talk to this cow this way because they're a cow. It's like, no, these are polar ends of the spectrum. We do our absolute best to help humans that don't have moral agency, that humans that are suffering, or that are, even fucking murderers, man, like murderers that have clearly have no moral, no good morals. They still, in most countries, in most places in the world, go to a prison system rather than just have, the electric chair, for example, because most places made that illegal. Even murderers get a better life than cows and pigs and chickens do. Why?
I think that would be subjective. That's a subjective opinion.
What's
I mean,
subjective?
because living 23 hours in a hole, 23 and a half hours in a hole, especially if you're in maximum security, that's not life. That's just, you're not dead.
Sure,
So
but yeah, but
I mean, to say that, oh, all of these murderers, they get steak dinners and they live
yeah,
great,
sure.
and
They
they don't live high on the hog, no pun intended. They just exist.
sure,
Okay.
but they exist.
And
Yeah.
living in prison is a terrible existence. I don't know if you've ever been to prison, but I've never been to prison.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I have friends that have, but it's a terrible existence. Having to worry about being killed, having to worry about being just all these same things that happen to, animals.
The animal, exactly. Except
The same
there's
thing.
a big
You
a
worry about
key
the same
difference
things.
though.
You worry
Key
about the same
difference.
things.
Key difference though. Exactly. What you just said is exactly right. They have almost the same existence as these animals have, except their life doesn't end up in a slaughterhouse. But the big difference is these animals did absolutely nothing to humans to deserve that. In your case, you're just saying that because they can't give me something, they deserve that. And this is
Nope.
what I take an issue
I
with.
actually say that if they're not going to offer that, let's be clear on my position. If
Yeah.
they're not going to offer that, they shouldn't exist in human society. They should
All
be
right, but it's
exiled.
a, but because that's not a possibility, you will keep paying for them to be bred and put through the system and then killed.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Because that's not a possibility, that they can't be removed from society in the way that you would like them to, you will continue to keep funding these systems that put them in the same position as a murderer that would get a lifetime in prison
Gotcha.
and then be killed.
The easiest way to answer that is the fact that it's available and not legislated. If again, if it's legislated,
If what is, sorry,
I
what's legislated?
if eating meat is legislated against, like if there are laws put in place to ban animal products and the use of animal products and such, I would fully follow any sort of laws that are put into place like that, because they're not. Um,
So
I, I
could I just
yeah.
interject for 1 second? That I mean, the law doesn't define morality. And just like 50 years ago in Germany, it was legal for a husband to rape their wife. It didn't mean that that was moral up until that point, and then from then on it wasn't. Like, people, you have moral agency. I have moral agency. We are capable of making these moral decisions and not having the law tell us what to do. I don't. If you would adhere to it because it's a law, why would you not adhere to it to yourself because you don't want to be part of that system? You wouldn't fight the law, but then you won't go ahead and make the change yourself before the law. I don't follow.
Right. I actually see benefit of eating animal products. That's one thing that's not been discussed, and I
Yeah.
haven't brought that up. But to me, there are benefits. Again, I'm not an MD, I'm not a doctor, so I
Sure.
can't tell you all of these things, and neither are you. So, and neither is probably anybody in the chat. So, with that being said, I can go off of how I feel when it comes to eating animal products and not eating animal products, and the difference in which and how I feel, how my body feels. I'm a 230-pound muscular dude. Bench 500 pounds, squat about 500, deadlift 500. So, I see the benefits of doing it. I'm not to say that if you don't eat animal products, and we don't even discuss how much I actually do, but
Sure.
anyways, but to say that animal product, just someone that doesn't eat animal products can't do that, it's not what I'm saying. But um I just think that we try to put too many things in one basket without being able to answer one particular question at a time, and it happens a lot with these discussions.
Hmm.
Again, I see the benefit of eating animal products, but that's me because I'm going off of how I feel, how my blood work looks, what my doctors tell me, and things of that nature, and how and the benefits of it. Um, but that again, that's just my opinion. That's just a subjective reality that I have when it comes to animal products.
Yeah. I don't think anyone could argue that it's more convenient to live that way and into more, I don't know. There's pleasurable benefits. There's, the ease of the products being available, the ease of the way you've always been. It's very convenient. I mean, every vegan has gone through those stages of the inconvenience of having to change everything over, not having to, but choosing to change everything over. And vegan athletes go through the inconvenience of trying to find the same amounts of what they need to maintain the performance they were doing. And yeah, there's no denying that it's definitely an inconvenience to make such a change. But this is where it's got to be weighed up. The inconvenience to us of making those changes and figuring this out is a blip in our lifespan. It's like a 2 week period, 3 weeks if you're very unlucky, 4 weeks or 5 weeks if you're very, very unlucky, and you're really, I don't know why you're not got the right information, or so, I don't know, you find that you're allergic to something, you didn't know you're allergic to it, so you got to find something else, whatever.
I have to walk around with an EpiPen because I am allergic to peanuts. So that would
Oh yeah,
and
for
coconuts
example.
that eliminate coconut oils and things of that sort. So that eliminates a
Yeah.
lot of things.
For example, yeah, for
Yeah,
example. But the point is that the alternative, I mean, the alternative, man, is funding, continuing to fund these
sure.
literal, like, I don't know what you've seen. I don't know how much you've been exposed
I
to this. I
watch
don't know what
everything.
you've,
Yep, I watch
so you've
everything.
seen what's going on in
Hmm.
these places, and you know that they don't have moral agency, but
Hmm.
I don't think there's no argument that the way they experience pain and fear is very similar to the way we experience pain and fear. Cows, actually, especially cows in this example, in this context, and pigs, but cows have been compared to autistic humans by members of animal agriculture organizations. Like, this isn't like a vegan propaganda thing. I've got a literal article from an animal ag website that was talking about how cows exhibit the same behaviors as autistic humans. So actually, they communicate more by body language, and then they're very similar. So the way they experience the fear and the pain, and it's all very similar. So the idea that of putting our convenience and, well, okay, it's good for me and I feel good and I can work out and I can get big over when changing could still be possible. As you said, we could change all of that and
Sure.
still have the same size, but putting convenience and pleasure above all of the horrors they go through. Oh, this is now I've got to question, frankly, I've got to question someone's sanity if this is like a conscious decision they make, like, okay, well, yeah, I know all that shit, that's all fine, that's all good,
Sure.
I see it and it's horrible, but my gains, and I don't want to get my gains from other ways, I want to get them from that, I want that. I
Hmm.
I don't really, if that's kind of the argument, if that's the argument that you're making, I don't think that is the argument you're making.
No.
But when someone does make that argument, I find myself just like, well, I guess this conversation's over there. I'm actually
Sure.
scared. I'm actually scared. If I'm near them at that point, I'd say I'm actually scared to be near you. If that's what you would prefer to go and,
Yeah.
you're actively happy with that, then that's
Hmm.
not somebody I would want to be around for long periods of time. I'd be concerned for
Hmm.
the family, so what I guess getting to the bottom of this, um yeah, you've seen what you've seen. I don't know if you've been watching movies, whatever, documentaries, I suppose. You say you've
Sure.
seen everything, so you've seen the slaughterhouses. So then what is the we've gone through a lot up until this point. What is the actual, I guess, the argument that is right now? Like we're talking about the benefits. Are you, is that what you're saying? You're not, are you saying you hold the benefits above what they go through, or are you saying that you don't, and you could get those things from other places and you could do that? Which is it? I mean, it's kind of black and
I
white at this
view
point.
I view the world as transactional, and this is part of the transaction for animal existence within human society.
Right.
Again, eliminate the use of animals, and the taking care of animals in human society, and I would do my best to adapt to whatever outcome comes from that. But that's probably the simplest way that I can put that. Um, they just hold zero value. I mean, they hold zero value, and I know I could hold zero value to most people, and I understand that. And people would say, "Oh, well, let's do something to you because you hold zero value to me." I 100% understand that. Um, but humans en masse hold value to other humans. Uh, no animal holds the majority of animals do not hold value to humans.
I don't I'm not following. Again, I still really don't follow how that is an argument to keep funding the
Right,
abuse
it's
of them.
tough, you know. I understand that, and it's because we're on different ends of the spectrum, and ultimately,
It's just because it
any
doesn't make sense, man. It's
no,
actually, to
no,
be
it's because
honest with you.
we're ultimately we're at different ends of the spectrum. You just view it as bad, regardless of anything. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's not right. It's not moral. It's not something that should be done. There's no excuse for it. Da, 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 da,
Like,
da, da, da,
well, but there
da.
isn't though. You've not made a good excuse for it, apart from that
But
you
I
see
don't.
them
But I don't
as
have
not being
to.
able to
But
give
you
you something
right,
back.
right.
Well, you
But
do
I
have
don't.
to because you're paying for the death and suffering. You are
No, I'm
directly
saying I don't
responsible, so you
have
have to
to.
make an excuse.
Right. I'm saying I don't
Yeah.
have to for you. I don't have to
Well,
for
you're on this live
you.
stream, so you do.
No, no,
You
no. I
kind of
don't
do,
have,
man.
but I don't have to for you because I'm not here to change your mind.
No, but you're
I'm
here to tell us all why it's justified to do this to them. And so far, the only reason that you've given is that it's transactional. And because they can't give you something back, you think they should deserve to go through hell, which I'm not following. There are many people that can't give you anything back, but you wouldn't pay for them to go through hell. You know, people on the other side of the world that are starving, you would actually probably help them, even though they can't give you anything at all back. They hold no value to you whatsoever. But you would never in a million years pay for them to go through what these animals go through. So what I'm trying to understand is that they can't
Unfortunately,
give you
my
value.
tax dollars do whenever we bomb another country, but that's like,
Yeah, well, yeah, that's
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
So actually,
Uh,
technically, I unfortunately we all contribute to things that we don't really want to or would do on our actual own if we had 100% moral agency over every single action that we chose to make.
yeah,
So what how about this? I would actually close down every single slaughterhouse. I would do that.
yeah.
I would get rid of supermarkets actually having animal products within them. I would 100% do both of those things, and anything else. I would 100% do any of those things. What I wouldn't do is then say that it wouldn't be okay to go out and hunt. That would probably be the only thing that I would still say to do. But anything else in terms of mass slaughter, like, because I don't think most people would. I don't think 90% of humans would be able to go out and procure their own food. I don't think they would
No,
be able to skin anything. I don't think they'd be able to cut it open. I don't think they'd be able to slice his throat. I don't think they would be able to deal with raising chickens and
no.
dealing with eggs and doing all the work that comes with raising chickens and hens and all that. I don't think 90% of people, maybe even 95% of people would be able to do that. So I would be fine with closing all of those things down. And for those 5% of people that, live off the grid, but they don't really live off the grid, but, go out there and they're able to, hunt for their own food, I would say that those people should be allowed to do
Well, if they don't, if they have no choice but to do that, then
that.
we've been through that right at the beginning. I can't say I could never possibly judge someone for doing what they do to survive. If they're doing it for pleasure, then of course I would still take issue, as I'm sure you would take issue as someone. You know, if we're talking about like people in both cases, they either go out to a supermarket and pay for violence for pleasure and convenience, or they go out into a forest and shoot animals for pleasure and convenience. 99% of people, if you ask the question, is violence justified because it makes you feel good and it's easy, would say no, it's not justified because it makes me feel good and because it's easy. Okay, then. So then you've just basically shown us that if you're not in a position of survival, using and eating animal products is not justified then, regardless of whether you go and hunt and skin an animal yourself or whether
That's
you
a
buy it from the
disingenuous
supermarket.
question. That's a disingenuous question because people don't want to appear a certain way because people don't like to be judged. People like to be accepted. So I think that's a disingenuous question.
You think people that they would say that violence is okay because it makes me feel good?
People lie all the time to everyone's face because they want to be accepted. So it's
All right,
it's tough
fine.
it's
So
tough to believe what most people would and would
sure, all
not
right, fine.
actually do because people lie.
I'll answer it for yourself then. Do you think violence is justified if it makes you feel good? For you personally, not for other people.
Are there contexts to the violence, or are we just talking violence just on its face, on face
Violence on its
value?
face, violent actions that make you feel good. Does it is violence justified by the feelings of pleasure? I mean, it's not dependent on who is the victim because
No, I'm
it's
not talking
violence
about. No,
regardless,
I'm
you
not
know?
talking about who the victim is. I'm just talking about just is there context, or are
Context
we
is that
just living?
it's
Because
unnecessary,
because
it's for pleasure.
as a martial artist, I say yes, violence is justified because I spar regularly, and that's violent.
Sure, you
You
spar
know
with
what I mean? So
people. Wait, so,
that's why I
but that
say, what's the context of the violence?
sure,
And
but well, that's
I would feel fine defending myself in any situation. So
of
I would
course, yeah.
feel yes, violence is justified. Again, this is where content. We're just trying to do black and white, but a lot of life falls into levels of gray.
Sure. We're talking about what you've just given an example of is consensual sport. Of course, within a sport, we're talking about someone's consented to be in a ring with you. So yeah, if you're violent and you enjoy it, but if you apply that without consent, i.e. you go beat someone in the street with your martial arts, then of course we're onto a different topic. So I suppose you're asking for context, non-consensual violence, i.e. the other individual is not consenting to this, but you enjoy it. Is that ever justified?
On the surface, no.
So then we agree that
Yes,
eating animal
we would
products
agree
and
on a
using
lot of
them
things.
is using
We
and
would,
eating animal products isn't
sure, sure,
justified
sure.
then because that's you're putting violence on an animal. It's non-consensual. The animal
No,
doesn't
because
want.
they're not a moral agent. They're not a
Doesn't
part of a
matter.
moral.
Doesn't
That's
matter. This
subjective.
the no.
It's subjective. It doesn't
Whether
matter.
they
It
can
doesn't
whether they
matter
can
to you.
decide what whether they can decide whether
90%. Yeah, 90% of the population disagrees with you. You know what I mean? That's the
how
problem.
so? Sorry, how so?
Because
90% of the population don't think that because animals don't have moral agency that they're not worthy because then
no, no,
90% of the
no.
population.
90% of the population eat meat. That's
Sure.
why.
Yeah, because of
That's why I say
indoctrination.
that they
Yeah.
disagree with you. Not
Yes,
because
indoctrination.
they cognitively think about everything. They sit down here and they get on these debate forums and they go through all of this and they sit there down and do
Look,
all the
look.
research. It's just because they act instinctually.
I just need to take this logic through to its conclusion here. Again, we need to bring this up because okay, so if non-consensual violence is justified to animals because they have no moral agency, then non-consensual violence is also justified to those disabled humans we've already referred to because they don't have moral agency as well. And you
Not
said this
true
isn't
because they
well,
fall
of
within a
course,
species. They fall within a species where
right.
99% of the people aren't that way.
But that's not relevant. They still exist without moral
You're
agency.
using an exception to a rule.
It doesn't
You're
matter.
using
They still.
it
It
does
doesn't
matter.
matter. They exist. These people exist, right? Whether you like it or not, they are in a minority, but they exist by your standards.
It's not about whether I like it or not. It's an exception to a rule. We
But
do things,
but
but hold
that's an
on, we don't.
arbitrary rule that you're putting
It,
on. That like, oh, if the
it's
majority
an
of a
arbitrary
species,
rule.
if the
No,
majority,
it's called
wait, you're
voting.
saying, is hold up, you're saying if the majority of a species has moral agency, then that means the ones that don't have moral agency still have the same rights as those that have moral agency. You just made this up. This isn't like any
They
like
don't have the
known
same rights
thing,
because they don't have the right to vote or drive or go to school or do other things. They don't
right?
have all the same rights.
Are
They're
these?
allowed to exist. They're
Are
allowed
they?
to exist.
Right.
They
But they're
don't have
allowed
the
to
same.
exist.
They don't have
Wait,
the same
sorry,
rights,
hold
and they
up.
don't have
Hold up.
children.
Just to go back to your point, they don't have those things. Yes, these individuals in our society, but they also don't have you enacting non-consensual violence on them. But you're saying that even though it doesn't apply to those humans, because they, they don't have moral agency, but it's, most humans do, so we don't do it to them. But these other animals, most of them don't have moral agency, so I can be violent to them non-consensually.
You're
I
being
don't,
disingenuous with the wording. It's
I'm
not
not at all.
most.
That's what you said.
It's not most. It's the vast majority. I said
Yeah.
99%. That's the vast
It
majority.
doesn't, but it's irrelevant. It's irrelevant though.
That's
That's
subjective then. It's subjective.
But if you're not explaining why it makes a difference, you're just saying, well, the majority of humans have it, so therefore these disabled humans can have the, I won't hurt them, but
Because
these majority of these animals don't have it, so I can hurt them. I don't understand how there's no logic here. It's just something you've made up and you're applying arbitrarily without any kind of explanation as to why it matters that the majority of humans have moral agency or not. It's really it's not landing at all. It doesn't make sense.
right. It does make sense because we vote. We vote with dollars. We vote at polls. We vote people in to make decisions for the vast majority of people. And these are the decisions that en masse 90% of people have chosen to live this way. Whether they agree with everything that comes with things or not, they have chosen with their dollar, with the people that they put into office to be a certain way and live a certain way when it comes to certain topics. That doesn't mean that everything is perfect or everything is done right. It just means that the core value of something maybe appealed to you.
So all right, so if the majority of the people voted in, it makes it moral, and that then you would live by that rule. So if you were living in a country like Saudi Arabia, where the majority of people vote in that women are the property of men, you would live by that, and you wouldn't argue it. You would just say, well, this is the majority rule, so my wife is now my property. Would you speak up, or would you say, no, I don't agree? Maybe not speak up because that'd be dangerous, but you get my point. Would you have a moral issue, or
Is
would you
that
say,
my
well, the majority is, the
again,
majority says
now
that?
now we're just going through black and white. Is that my culture? Am I now Saudi Arabian in that case, and that's how I grew up and that's how I live? Like, are these the
No,
case,
it's
or am I a black American that grew up in America with a different opinion or thought process on something?
well, I mean,
Because two
that's
things two things can no because two things can be true at the same time. You're able to say what you just said,
yeah,
and in a different part of the country or a different part of the world, people live one way, and in a
yeah,
different part of the world, people live another way. Two
exactly,
things
yeah,
can be true at the same time, and that's
yeah,
that's an example of that. That's an example of
sure.
that. So in this place, this is how people view things. In this place, this is how people view things.
And it's
Who are
right
you?
because
Who?
and it's right
I'm.
because they
It's
view it in the
no,
majority. You're
it's
saying the
not. It's not.
majority might
It's
is
not
right,
right or
basically,
it's
right?
not right or wrong. It's not right or wrong. It's what the people have decided. It's not right or
Right,
wrong. It's
right,
just how the
yeah,
people have chosen.
sure. So,
So
so,
I, I
but
don't I don't know if that's right or wrong, if that's how it's defined. That's just what the people have chosen. So that's what they accept to live with. They may not accept. Again, I said people don't may not accept to live with everything that comes along with what they've chosen, but they live with it because a core value of something or something resonated with them that have made them
right.
go that particular route.
Sure, but you sat where you are in your position have had the massive benefit of being able to consider the different moral implications and how your actions harm others, and you've been able to grow up in a culture, in a society that fortunately has actually given a lot of rights to a lot of people that in other countries they don't do that. So if you look at another country, for example, where women are treated like second-class citizens or where members of the LGBT community are killed, you are able to look at that from your position and say, well, thanks to my where I live and what I've learned and how I know these are real people, people that live and breathe like me, people that deserve to live without violence, I can say objectively what they are doing to those people is wrong, because it's not just my upbringing, it's that I am able to consider their experiences without the hatred that local culture has. They are blinded by hatred. I am not blinded by hatred, so I can look at that and say, if I was in that culture right now, if I moved there, I would have a problem with that. Even though the majority of those people don't have a problem with that, I would have a problem with that. And you can apply that exact same logic, exactly the same thought process to these animals. You look at them and you say, right, do they have moral agency? No. Do they suffer? Do they scream and beg for their lives? Do they pine after their children? Even if they don't do any of those things, do they have nerve endings that respond to pain the way I respond to pain? And do they so? And more importantly than that, forget about all of that. Does any of this need to happen to them? Do they need to go through any of this horrible life, the same life as a prisoner? And the answer's no. So you sitting there, you can look at your culture and say, right, everywhere in my culture says this is right, but I've taken a step aside and actually thought about it, and I've come to the conclusion based on all these things that no, it's not right. I mean, fuck what everyone else is saying. We're able to step aside from our majority group think. I mean, fuck, man, how many people were upset when Trump got voted in? Like, people can step aside from the majority and say, how the hell did this happen? And start to become self-aware. Like, wait a minute, what community am I living in here? What the fuck? Who are these people? What are we doing? And you say that when vegans feel like they're broken the matrix, that's probably why you're getting that impression, because sometimes some vegans are genuinely, people before they were vegan, they genuinely were so into their life as this is the way it is, everything is fine, all good, everyone does this is great. They do say things like, I feel I broke out of the matrix, because they feel like they'd been in it. And that's not everyone. I'm just saying, you said that some vegans feel like that and you've seen that. It's true, they do. Some vegans feel like, fuck, I've been living a dream this whole time, because they suddenly have that realization that I've just explained to you, that everyone is doing this thing. But I've come to this logical conclusion here. It's not all emotional. It's logical. It doesn't need to happen. The animals suffer. It doesn't need to happen. Why is everyone ignoring it? I don't want to do that anymore. It's literally that simple.
Whew, that was a lot.
Yeah, man.
Wait, no, it's all good. All good, all good. Again, I don't sit on my high horse. Proverbial
Yeah.
high horse. So I don't judge another community or society. I know what that looks like on the other end, judging by how my mother was treated growing up and my aunts and my grandparents. So I don't do that when it comes to society. But again, I mean, with different societies, communities, and such, I always go with that's interesting. I need to know more, and I need to hear more, and I need to understand that person's perspective, talk about it. And if I agree, I agree. And if I don't, then I eat meat. Proverbially, again, I eat the meat and spit out the bones if it doesn't apply to me. And so I don't sit here in the United States and judge Finland. I don't sit here in the United States and judge Iraq or Saudi Arabia or anything like that, China or anything. I don't sit here and do that. If I want to know something, I talk to people and try to understand their perspective. I don't sit here on my proverbial, again, high horse and presume that my moral compass is aligned better than someone else's when I know nothing about people. And again, that's what a lot of things sound like. When you're hearing these things, you feel like you could go into someone else's community, home, or judge from, a computer or from, on the street or whatever the
Yeah.
case is, and say, I'm better than you because I believe XYZ. And I don't do that. I talk to somebody and I try to understand what it is that they're thinking, where their belief is, and I go into it with an open mind. Even with this discussion, even though I have opinions on things, I understand that they're just subjective opinions. And I came in here with an open mind to listen to everything that you had to say, because we probably agree on a lot of things and have, obviously, at the end of the spectrum, the things that we just disagree on. And
Yeah.
that in lies where the problem comes in.
So there's some level of there are some things I agree with what you said. As somebody who's traveled around quite a lot and I've been to different places and experienced different cultures, and some cultures I didn't really like very much, and I didn't like some of the local customs so much, like things that weren't really in my comfort zone. And it's like, yeah, you ask about them, you learn about them, maybe you start to like them a little bit, or at least understand them and not be so uncomfortable with them. After living in India for like 12 months in total, that was a culture shock. There were a lot of things I didn't appreciate. And
Right.
but once you learn about them, you're like, well, maybe it's all right. But this is very, very different than, for example, as the examples I gave, where in some countries people who are gay are literally killed, or women are treated as not allowed to drive, not allowed to walk out by themselves. This is not the same as well, they asked me to take my shoes off before I go in, for example. This is, these are two very different things. We can discuss some cultural differences, but we can absolutely speak against others. And it's not seeking to understand why they want to kill gay people or seeking to understand why they want to strip women of all rights. It's actually, we skip that because there's no understanding that needs to be had, in the sense that it's not like, oh, let's sit down and talk about why you kill gay people. It's that I know why you do it. We know it's hatred, it's bigotry. It's that they don't see them as the same level, or whatever, as humans. You can find that out pretty quickly. It's not about sitting down and debating in that sense. It's about actually speaking out and doing something about it. And this is why many vegans don't just go vegan. They go vegan and start speaking up, because they realize that, wait a minute, not only is this abhorrent and what is happening, it's that I was part of it. I already understand why people do it. So therefore, I'm just going to go to the next stage and actually start to speak against it. I don't need to start asking people, why do you do this? Excuse me, why? Even though we do, right? We do. But a lot of vegans will be rightly angry, and they'll go out and they'll talk about it, and they'll say, this is fucked up, this is crazy. Or, as you made one of the comments on my thing, you said, when I said, if you're still contributing to this, and you know what's going on, why are you a selfish piece of shit? And you said, in your comment, you said, David, if you think people are pieces of shit because they're not vegan, just say it, if that's what you really think.
I agree with that.
Well, I think
I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
Because I think you're bringing up a good point, and it
Sure.
just came back into my mind. One of the other things that I would say is, if you're going to be vegan and hold these views, I get it. It makes sense. I don't think you should be friends or associate with anyone that isn't, because they're going 100% against your moral compass, your moral guidelines. I don't understand, because a lot of times vegans will bring up, oh, are you friends with someone that, forcibly performs intercourse on somebody? I say that because I don't want to say certain words.
Sure, yeah.
Forcibly perform intercourse on somebody, or someone that abuses people, or whatever the case is. If you're not friends with that person, why are you then going to be friends with someone that is non-vegan? That's all. Again, and this is why I always like to have these discussions with vegans, because I want to understand that particular point. And that's why I disagree with you with saying that you shouldn't talk to those people. You should, regardless of whether or not someone did a despicable act. You should always try to understand why. You always want to understand the nature of a problem, so then you can change it in the future. Maybe not in that particular person, but you can change it and identify it in somebody else. And it's always, there's never a wrong time to have a discussion with people.
Yeah. I think that would say, to clarify what I meant further, in the sense that discussing it with the aim of changing the person is different than discussing it just to understand. That's kind of what I was trying to get at here. Like you were saying, I'd talk to them, I'd see what they're about, I'd find out, it'll all be that's not the attitude I would take as to why someone is doing something horrific to someone else. It would be, I ask you these questions to figure out what the hell's going on, with the intention of trying to stop you from doing that thing. If that's the way in, right? Rather than just like, oh, I'm just trying to discover what's going on.
Right, but that information is valuable, because it could prevent. It could make it easier for you to talk to the next person. Like,
yeah, of course.
Because every time a vegan has a discussion with somebody, they hear an argument that they've never heard before. They now take that information, even if they didn't change that person's mind. They now take that information and translate it to the next non-vegan to eliminate a particular argument, or to say, oh, I've heard that before, and da 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 da. That's why you do that. You're not going to change everybody's mind that you speak with, but everybody has value in terms of speaking with them, because you can understand the next person potentially better.
Right. Yeah. Sure. So I understand, but it's going in with an intention of, I understand. I think that's the intention.
Right.
The intention is important for me. The intention that you've got to have, the intention to change has got to be there, not just the intention of, I'm just, trying to learn about your culture. It's like, I don't want, just
do you want to change India?
Well, no, not India, no, but like a culture that is a specific part of a culture, for sure. Like if there was a specific,
you want to change all of Saudi Arabia?
Oh fuck! If I could, absolutely, absolutely, man. Sure. It's not my fight, unfortunately. I mean, I'm sure it's a lot of other people's fights, but it's not the fight I've picked.
Chosen. No, but, I get it. I understand.
But I would definitely, if someone asked me, like, if I could, would I?
Right.
someone gave me, asked me for help with something, then I definitely can consider it. It's something I think there's so many injustices. It's hard to even focus.
Mm,
But this is the thing with being vegan is that it's not some. Even I don't even let's just even bypass this for a second. The word vegan, it's not even necessary to even title as one as a vegan or label
sure,
oneself
sure,
as a
sure, sure.
vegan. Who gives a fuck? The point is that there's so much injustice, so many things we can impact or not impact in the world, and there's many things like changing the laws in Saudi Arabia is something that's going to take fucking years of protesting and trying to lobby and doing it from not even in Saudi Arabia. That is difficult, right? But the injustice of like what's going on with with animals, right? With non-humans, and the fact that they live the same life or a worse life than a prisoner would get
Right.
for murdering or doing some horrible shit. They get all of that happening to them. In your case, simply because they don't have moral agency. Whereas
Right. Think
the
think about
reality
what.
of just to finish this
Sorry.
point, the reality is that
Mm,
for you to actually help them, it doesn't require you to see them as any kind of equal to you. You don't even have to lobby for them to get rights to help them. They're going through pain, whether they have moral agency or not. They go through a horrific life, worse than any murderer would ever get, right? And all you have to do to not even to stop that from happening, basically, or to be a part of the movement that is saying this doesn't need to happen anymore, and to stop that horrible shit from happening to them, is just buy something different at the supermarket. It's not like you have to lobby or protest or do anything. This is why veganism, or whatever you want to call it, stopping contributing to these industries. If you don't want to call yourself a vegan, who cares about that? The point is, it's just an inaction. It's actually nothing. You just take your money, put it somewhere else, and then you've one part of one big fucking source of this pain and suffering and violence is now you're no longer contributing to it, and that's why it's such a simple thing, in comparison to all the other ways you could fight against these pain and suffering of humans. This is one of the easiest things to do, and a lot of people, I don't know why, pick and choose, like, oh, if I'm doing human rights and I won't do
right.
non-human rights. It's like
Hmm.
you can fight for humans and just not pay for that. It's such a
Hmm.
simple thing.
Right. I mean, you said a lot of good things in there that sparked a bunch of different questions, and but
Yeah.
you kept going, so then I keep forgetting the
Yeah, it's my bad. I'll do
no, no,
better on that.
no.
Yeah,
No, no,
I'll
no,
slow down
no,
a
it's
bit.
fine. No, it's fine. That's why we have to have these discussions. Because if we were typing this, it would have stopped a long time ago.
Yeah,
So you can only type
sure.
it so much. Um, but no, I mean, I think you said a gem in there. One of the things that I can't remember is question wise, I mean, is
Hmm.
saying that it would take years and whatever to change the law someplace else. Having said that, that's with humans. That's even with humans. That's with people that could offer a benefit to you. And we have a problem with changing certain things to like-minded people, or people of the same species, or thereabouts, or they're the like. And we can't even do that. And we're expecting to change something for something that offers zero utility for humans and would actually be a drain on society if they weren't, used the way that they were. I mean, eventually they would die out, but or the numbers would, dramatically decrease. But humans can't even get on the same page when it comes to voting for the same person, or changing rules, or laws, or whatever. And we're expected to make like such a drastic change like this that is also personal, that you're held accountable for. I agree, but um we're expecting humans to actually consciously make a choice like that, and I don't see people doing that, because that sounds like it sounds like a natural thing, right? To
There's like a I think there's a core difference between the two examples, though. Like
Sure,
there is,
sure,
all
sure.
right, there's human issues, right, that you're just saying, and there are human issues that exist, but you yourself sat here are not contributing to those issues, right? If there is like an issue with trans rights issue, it's not like you're going out and actively protesting against trans people getting rights, or trying to stop them from being trans. You are actually right now you're at zero. You're not helping, or I don't know. I assume maybe you're not helping. Maybe you are helping. I don't know, but you're not harming them, right? Whereas when it comes to the animals, you're not at zero. Actually, this is something that you're contributing to every single day, multiple times a day, and All right, yeah, they
Presumably, we're actually
presumably.
not
All right,
sure.
well, whatever it
Presumably,
is, but at least once a day,
we're
right? Some
we're
form
not
of
sure.
animal, yeah, sure, some form of animal product at least once a day, and contributing to the systems and these systems that are harming them and putting them through this hell. So it's like you're starting at actually as being someone contributing to it, and you can pull yourself down to zero. And this is everybody's in this position. Everyone who's not a vegan or whatever you want, everybody who's contributing to it is in that same position. The first thing we do before we even think about these grand systematic changes is to get to zero and actually, right, okay, well, I'm not part of that shit anymore. And then if you want to do something further than that, then that's your own call, right? But this is why it's different than human issues. It's not like you're talking to a racist and trying to get them to stop being racist. And that's like a different thing altogether. That would be a different thing, right? From someone like you, who I'm assuming is not a racist. You don't. You could do something to help end racism, but if you don't, as long as you're not being a racist, you're at zero. You're doing. You're not a bad person because you don't go and help. It's like you have your reasons. But when
Yeah,
people don't go vegan, they are doing the opposite. They are contributing to it. You
sure.
know?
I would actually I kind of push back on that because
Sure.
to not help doesn't mean that you're not contributing. It means that you have your own sort of cognitive dissonance, or you believe that just because you didn't say a certain word to someone of a different nationality that you're not a certain thing. But if you don't stop someone from doing something, then you are contributing. So a lot of people sort of fall into this false sense of security or this bubble that thinking that their inaction isn't a problem when in actuality it can be a problem.
Well, no,
That's
that's a
just
good
generally
point.
speaking.
That's a really
That's
good
just
point.
generally speaking on
It's
that.
a really good point, and it applies to the animals too. That
Sure.
this is what a lot of vegans actually get into arguments about. They say that, okay,
I
now
understand. Yeah.
now you are not paying for it, but you're also not stopping it. So if you
Sure.
are allowing it to happen, then your inaction is actually part of the issue.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, a lot of
I,
vegans believe
I
that.
agree. I agree with that. I agree with that. Um, I would also say that I think vegans go about it the wrong way in certain aspects. I understand the debate sort of panels. And I understand street outreach and things of that nature, and those things have a place and stuff like that. And and I get it. But I would surmise that actually going into positions of power would actually be more beneficial. I keep saying that if you're going to take meat off the table, I'm not fighting the government because I have things to worry about, right?
Yeah,
So become a politician, lobby for these things and create laws and stuff like that. Get other people on your side and do it that way. Hoping that just because you drop a bomb on somebody and you embarrass them on camera during outreach or something like that, that person is now going to change their mind and not
yeah,
lie to you in person and say, oh my god, I feel so bad, yes, now I think I'm going to go change what I do.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, fool's gold at best.
Yeah, so that's yeah. The reasons that people do that normally is that they're not trying to change the person they're talking to. They're actually trying to make a piece of content that will
Sure,
change
they're
other
trying to dunk
people.
on people and make it
It,
interesting.
yeah,
Sure.
you dunk on someone, and then everybody likes to watch someone else get dunked on, and it actually show.
Yeah.
We all enjoy watching someone squirm, and it's
Sure.
I don't know, it's one of those things, right? And
Yeah,
a lot
but
of
don't you
people
think that's
will.
sort of weird morally that you want to see
It's
someone be embarrassed? That
yeah,
with someone that thinks you have moral high ground over somebody, you now do something to embarrass them and
yeah.
put it on the internet and make them look stupid for everybody to see? That looks
It,
great.
Yeah, it's
I
done.
mean,
People
morally,
do it.
that
Yeah,
makes you feel
people do
good.
it. But I guess the point is of it is that it's not like they've made them look stupid because I don't know, they did something embarrassing. It's because they come out with some absolute fucking nonsense when
Yeah,
they're
but
pushed on their morals.
it's also
So
because
it's
someone was walking down the street not thinking that they were gonna meet someone that was gonna obliterate them with factual information that they've been studying for a year or so, and then hit a random person on the street and go, "Hey, do you know how many animals are killed on a daily basis?"
Hey, but look,
It's
man.
like,
Hey, look. They have moral agency and the ability to make decisions, and they made the decision to
sure, sure,
stand there and
sure.
say that shit. They
I
weren't
got you.
coerced. They could have walked away. I
I
understand
agree.
if they were cornered, be more likely to agree with you. But they weren't cornered. Like, there's usually an open environment. They can walk away if they want, but they choose to stand there and say things like plants have feelings, man. And like, if
Sure.
they stand there and say it,
Right, and
that's their
that's
mistake,
because
man.
people have an innate need for self
Absolutely.
preservation and want to and then want to go, oh no, but and try to make
Yeah,
excuses for stuff because the not everyone is fully educated on it. Again, this
of
is
course.
why I
Yeah.
say go into politics, legislate it that way, make it
Mm,
happen that way if you're going to do it. That's what's dunking on 30 people walking down the street where 100,000 people walk. Great, that's great. You dunked on 30 people, you made vegans laugh, and you made meat flakes look stupid, and all this other great. What law have you changed? what
sure.
what what mind have you changed?
Yeah,
What heart have you changed in mass?
yeah. It's
you
a
know
whole. It's a bigger debate than this. To be honest with you, as to like strategy and tactics and what works and what doesn't, and it's ongoing within vegan animal rights circles. It's not something that it's not something we can answer the question to here. I
Right,
can't.
and
I
a
certainly
lot
can't
of
answer
these
that
questions
question.
a
But
lot of these questions you ask me, they're
yeah,
difficult because a lot of them are, in my opinion, they're opinionated and subjective.
sure. Well, I
There
mean,
are some things that can be true, but not
yeah.
they're not all things that can be true. What we
Well,
can agree on is that for a human to eat meat, an animal has to die.
I can summarize the points and ask the kind of I guess the straight up question again that from what I'm understanding is that for you acknowledge that what the animals go through is we acknowledged, and it was your point actually that what they go through is akin to a prisoner like murderer who gets put in prison, except the murderer doesn't end the life by going in a slaughterhouse having the throat slit. The animals do. So we acknowledge that's happening. We acknowledge that they feel and suffer. They have pain. They do have personalities. I don't know if there's something you're aware of, but I highly recommend you go to, if you don't believe me, to go. You can look at the science, or you can go to a sanctuary, and you can see how they all do individual different things and act differently. And some won't come to you, some will come to you, and it's not for food, and it's not for you'd say, oh, it's because you got food. It's not. Some of them genuinely appreciate a love and affection. Some of them don't. They have individual ways and personalities and beings, and they have memories of being abused. So some of them hate humans, and some of them have been raised with humans, so they don't have that fear. They're individual beings, right? So they're being put, but they don't have moral agency, right? But that's where they're at, right? So what I'm understanding is for you to give them the enough respect that they don't end up as a piece of food on your plate, as a piece of flesh on your plate, or a glass of milk or whatever, for you to give them enough moral, consider them morally enough to not become that, the government has to tell you, because that's the only way you're going to do it. Or
They
the
also
other
have to be
way,
exiled.
yeah, yeah, that's the other way. That's the only way you'll do it. So I'm understanding that for them to not go through all of that, or for you not to pay for them to go through all of that, either the government has to make it illegal, or they have to be exiled from society. Is this a good summarized? Have I summarized that your point well? There, your argument.
Yeah, for the most part.
Right. I mean, I don't know where we go from there, man. I would say, I guess I could only really conclude on that.
Well, I do have a question.
It's yeah,
I do have a question. Do you
yeah.
feel that if you have this sort of moral opinion as such that those that eat meat are morally wrong and thereabouts, should vegans be friends or associate with those that are non-vegan?
I
Because
don't see that.
I would say no, because I don't
Yeah.
associate with those that abuse children, but just as an example. But
Honestly, I'm less concerned with that than I am the people who continue to use excuses to go and put animals through this. To be honest with you, and I don't think that's a debate I want to get into here. I think what's more the point I'd like to, I guess, focus on. I don't think there's anywhere else for us to go here. To be honest with you, I don't want to get onto another topic, because I wanted. This is not important. What's important is what's important is the animals that I am spending, quite a significant amount of time trying to make people aware of and raise awareness of what's happening to them. And meeting someone such as yourself that is fully aware of what happens to them, but is happy to see them go through it, and unless the government makes it illegal, or unless they are eradicated because they can't offer you something back. I just find it incredibly selfish, and I'd expect that. I genuinely expected that a father of kids would have more empathy and more sympathy for others, especially like animals that are in many ways the same as a human child, and that the human child will grow up to have moral agency, but at the point where they're a baby, they are nothing to society. They are useless. They have no moral agency. They have nothing to offer. Animals stay like that for their whole life. I'm just astounded at the lack of compassion or empathy for these animals that they're completely helpless, man. They're completely helpless, completely hopeless at the complete whims of humans. I guess I'm just stumped by the kind of flat, kind of almost robotic approach to it, to be honest with you.
Uh, sure. Again, that's a lot said. Um, no, I don't think you heard everything that was said. I actually said that a lot of the things that they go through um, is wrong and shouldn't happen, and I want to discuss those sort of things. And I would release them into the wild, but I wouldn't not hunt animals or that sort of thing, or not eat meat. That's sort of really what the basis is. I would eliminate any sort of, again, and I said this too. You roll back the tape. I
Sure.
said I would eliminate factory farming. I said I would eliminate all of those things that harm them, not because I like them, but because, hey, if it's not necessary, and that's what we want to decide as a society is the best way for us moving forward to better ourselves as humans. I would 100% do that. And again, I haven't even disagreed with you on a lot of the abuse takes and stuff like that. my
Yeah.
thing my thing is their utility. I just come back to utility and their moral agency and their usage within a human society. Again, I also said I would 100% uh, get get rid of that, any sort of
It's
abuses and anything of that sort, and to 100% cut all of that out and sort of just say it and splice it how you're trying to say it to make me as if I'm not an empathetic or compassionate person is disingenuous, and just it's
it's
not it's not an accurate depiction of somebody.
it is.
but
Because
but
I'm
I
not
but
going.
but
I'm not
I but
going.
I
Yeah.
no,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
going by. I'm not going by what you're saying. I'm going by what you're doing. And
Uh,
although you tell me that you're
you
against
should
these
go hold
things,
on you
uh,
should go
you,
by
you
you should go by what I'm saying, because you actually don't know what I'm doing. You just hear what I'm saying. You don't know what I actually do on a day-to-day basis. You actually don't know how I do or don't eat. You actually don't know if I do or don't abuse animals or anything like that. You're making an assumption because I don't classify myself as a vegan. You make assumptions, and now you're projecting all of those assumptions and now calling into question my morality in terms of being, or my empathy in terms of being a parent, which is 100% disingenuous. I don't even think you have children, do you?
no, I don't have children now.
So I have 4 children, and
Yeah.
to claim that I have zero empathy, or to actually sit again, here you are, just how as I said earlier,
Yeah.
sit on the high horse and make presumptions that everything that you say is accurate is why there is a problem. That's why people have to listen to what people say and actually take actions. You're making you just classified me. You summed me up at the 1 hour and 30 minute mark as being
Yeah.
an unempathetic human that cares nothing about people and essentially shouldn't have children. I care nothing for animals and shouldn't have children and such. That's how I took it, right?
Right. Yeah.
And you don't even know what I actually do. I'm having these discussions because I want to understand what these things are, and I'm offering suggestions. And then
Yeah.
to classify me that way, you lose an advocate in someone like that because you don't know how much reach I have. You don't know who I know. You don't know, what I do.
Sure.
But to say those things, you lose people, and that's just 100% disrespectful.
So are you saying that you don't contribute to any of the things that we've been discussing and what the animals go through?
I personally don't in terms of eating.
So what do you mean exactly? If you, I mean, if you look, if you joined this stream, and all the way up until the stream itself withheld the information that actually you are consuming a plant-based diet
I
or
do.
whatever,
I do
then
concern about plant. Again, I do, but I said I don't classify myself as vegan because I understand and I talk to people and I want to understand why they do what it is that they do, and I want to go over things to learn why
hold
people
up.
do what it is that they
I
do.
need to understand then. Earlier on, you were arguing that it's beneficial for you as you're bodybuilding to be eating animal products, and now you're telling me you don't eat animal products.
Nope, I said that I'm plant based. I said that I'm plant based. I don't eat animals. I don't eat animals regularly. I don't consume animal products regularly. I don't live with animals. I don't do anything associated with animals on a regular basis, on a day-to-day, even weekly basis. It may be something that's thrown in there occasionally to assist with certain things, but it's not something that's done on a regular basis.
So what was this? What was the point about bodybuilding then? And being, you were saying you're a big
No,
muscular guy. I don't.
but I also said that I understand that someone that's not, again, rewind the tape. I also said that I understand that it's not to say that just because someone doesn't eat those products that they can't be that they can't do those things. I said that. I said all of those things. I know it's easy to just remember the parts that sound salacious and want to, incriminate someone, but I didn't say that you couldn't be
I'm
a
not. I'm
bodybuilder or couldn't
not.
be a certain way.
No, I didn't say you said you couldn't. I'm not incriminating you. I'm referring back to the reasons you were giving that you find it beneficial for yourself to not be vegan. You were saying that actually, no, I'm a big guy and I need this and I need that. And I know it's possible to be like this without animal products, but I'm not saying it isn't. And you were justifying yourself consuming animal products for those reasons.
No,
This is recorded. Look, I mean,
what I
look,
was justifying was the fact that I understand. See, you've given up. This is why I keep saying this. You've given up all understanding, and I get it. I 100% understand why you've given up all sort of any sort of accepting of this because you are just on this side. This is just how you feel. It just is what it is. That's why it's
accepting what
essentially black and
exactly?
white. You
This is
you accept that eating meat or using animals in any sort of way is 100% wrong. Should not be done. They deserve certain rights and deserve the to live and and all of that. And
right.
you're 100% on that side. So anything other than that, that's why I said I'm not here. I can't change your mind because anything other than that, you think it's wrong. Whether you ate a fish once a month or you had a glass of milk once a week or something like that, whatever the case is, just saying.
Yeah.
Regardless of that, you are 100%. Nope, that's it. Da, 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 da.
Well, because the
Probably
animals
even
are
if you ride a horse,
100%, because the animals are 100% dead or
right?
100% exploited for that one glass of milk or the one fish. That it sounds so insignificant when we put it that way, but in the reality it's still death and violence. It doesn't matter if it was once in a month or if it was 100 times in a month. It's still
it would,
you're subscribing to
yeah.
the idea that that's their worth and that's all they are, and this is what this that's all they are to me. Of course, yes, I'm against that, as
And
we
I
all
understand
should
that.
be against that for
I understand that.
violence for pleasure,
Sure.
violence for convenience. Yeah,
I understand that, but we also get to a point where we actually sit here and believe that there aren't medical data that I don't. Again, I'm not a doctor, but we sit here and suggest that there aren't benefits to animal products. And
I didn't say that there
you,
weren't
no,
benefits. We've been through that
I'm no, no, no.
already.
I said we. That's
Yeah,
I didn't say David.
right. Okay,
I
yeah,
said
yeah,
we. I
sure,
said we.
sure.
We get into this discussion. We get into these platforms and say that they're you're gonna die early and da, 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 nothing's good about meat and is that factually true? It is that 100% without argument true, and there's been no evidence to say that that actually is the case. There's been evidence to say that having processed uh, having processed meats or certain red meats increase certain things, but it doesn't mean that you're going to do something or that something's going to happen. What it
Yeah,
actually means is that you should be having a more whole food diet. You should be actually, because a lot of those numbers actually go down if you add vegetables on a regular basis, if you add fruits on a regular basis. A lot of those numbers actually go down, and we choose to say that a certain diet correlates to death when we actually don't know.
sure. I guess to I guess I will try again to summarize what I'm understanding up until this point, and again, if you disagree, you can tell me why, or I mean, I've kind of not. I'm kind of confused, to be honest with you, as I feel like either you've tricked me from the first moment in that you've secretly are eating plant based, and when you say going vegan, you just meant, I don't know, theoretically or something. I don't know. Either you're practically living. You're either living like a vegan and you've been kind of fooling me the whole time, or you're not living like a vegan and you said that to try and save face. So let me just try to understand,
No, I'm 100%
like,
not living like a vegan, just to be
right.
clear.
So you're
So
not
I'm
eating
I'm
plant
not I'm not
based,
trying.
or you
No,
are?
no, no, plant-based and vegan are different things.
They are,
What,
yeah. But a plant based
no,
diet
no,
means that you're
because
eating a plant based diet.
vegan isn't a diet, right?
No, it's not.
It's moral choices. It's the way you choose to live your life. I'm
Sure.
not vegan because I don't live my life that way.
No,
That's what
but
I'm trying to say.
yeah,
I don't have the same. You would consider yourself a vegan. You and I differ on our opinions on this topic. Therefore, in your eyes and in the eyes of vegans, I would not be considered a vegan. It would be a lie for me to say that I am a vegan and differ in opinions than you.
right. But I asked you if you would stop contributing to those industries, and you said no because you don't think they have moral agency, and if the only thing that would get you to stop contributing to them is if they were eradicated, these animals were eradicated from society, or if it became legal. Now you
All right.
can't blame me
Let
for making
Nope,
the
that's fair.
logical
That's fair.
conclusion from that you are paying for those things.
That's fair. Let me
Are you saying you're not?
no, no, no. Let's be fair to what and again, this is why having a discussion is better, and I thank you for having a discussion. But this is why having a discussion is better as opposed to written word. So I can clarify that. Um, I don't change those things because they're subsidized. Like, and we said that before, and I forgot to mention that within that discussion, and that was my fault, and I apologize for sort of leading to a particular conclusion or assumption that one may have had. But regardless of how I do or don't feel, my tax dollars go to things that I do and don't agree with, regardless. And I've stated multiple times, and this is why I've stated multiple times, I don't agree with how animals are handled. Whether I like them or not, because I don't, but whether I like them or not, I disagree with how they're handled. I don't disagree with eating meat, but I disagree with how meat is procured, right? And
Yeah.
I've tried to come across as best as possible with saying that because again, two ideals, two values, two truths can exist at the same time.
So two truths meaning that you disagree with how it's done, but you pay for how it's done because if you don't pay, it'll be subsidized. Is that what you're saying?
It already is subsidized,
But
regardless of whether or not I pay for it or not, because
right.
farming doesn't make money.
So you're
Farming
paying
isn't,
for it. So you're paying
regardless.
for it. But are you paying? Are you? I mean, this seems like a weird argument. Like all people are paying for it through subsidies. It's not what I'm asking. I'm asking,
And that's
are
why I
you
say
going out and paying for it with your dollar? Are you going and giving these people money or not? That's the question. Not is your taxpayer dollar going there. You can't stop that. Or you could, but it would be very difficult. I'm asking, are you consciously going out and telling the supermarket, here is my money for those products or not? That's the question I'm trying to
mhm,
understand.
the only product that I would do that for, and not regularly, would be chicken. So, do I? Oh, actually, chicken or fish. So,
Hmm.
because I'm plant based, but I'm flexitarian, more so paleo, that sort of thing. But because my diet basically consists of fruits and vegetables and oatmeal. That's really pretty much all that I eat on a regular basis, and kashi cereal, really. But I can't say that I don't 100% put anything in there in terms of going to the supermarket because um maybe monthly I'll have and I'll have animal product.
And milk and dairy products
I
and
don't. I
eggs
don't have
and
a. Nope. I don't have any milk, and I'm allergic to eggs.
right. That's interesting. So wait, so you're uh it's yeah, so I'm kind of again I'm still lost earlier on with the whole discussion. I guess it's been, I don't know, I'll have to go back and rewatch that to see either if if there's a reason I should have been misled, or if I misunderstood. So your contributions to those industries are that you're paying for it's chickens and fish to be killed, and that's only on that's on a monthly basis, you're saying, right? Or am again,
Right.
am I misunderstanding you?
Correct.
Right, and you're doing that because you don't think you're doing that because they don't have moral agency, and
Well,
you don't
I do that. Nope, nope.
right, okay.
I apologize. I have to cut again. This is why things get messed up because we bloviate for so long and say so much stuff that it's tough to gather everything and try to respond to everything.
I mean,
But
honestly,
no,
it's tough to gather everything because it's not. To be completely honest with you, you've not been I don't know what the word would be. I don't think you've necessarily argued in good faith all the way through. You've not been
I've been
transparent. You've
no, I've
withheld
been.
information that would have been really important in the
I
beginning,
answer no. I
and
answer the
answered as if
questions.
you
Nope, nope. I never
yeah.
misrepresented myself.
I think literally about
I answer
30 people in the
questions.
comments would definitely disagree with that, as multiple people
Right.
have already said.
But
We wish you
of
could
course,
rewind here
yeah,
because there's
of
been
course.
so much confusion here.
David, I would love to rewatch this with you and go over everything for sure. But again, I'm not reading the chat. I don't have a chat in front of me.
Yeah, sure.
But for anyone that felt that I was disingenuous or misleading, I apologize. That's not the intent. I answer the questions because I'm not here preparing for any of this, right?
Yep.
So, we're not asking, technical questions. We're not asking 100%, what documentation do you have questions? We're asking field-based questions. We're asking
Mm-hmm.
opinion-based questions. So on the spot, answering a question, all you can do is the best that you can do. So if I misrepresented something, I apologize. But again, all I can do is answer the questions that are provided to me the best way that I can within that. I never said that
Sure.
I do or don't eat meat. The presumption was just there. All I claimed was that 100% claimed was that I'm not a vegan. That's what I
So,
claimed.
all right, fine. So now I can properly summarize the situation. So, I don't know the situation. Okay, I don't know the situation for the rest of your family, but I'll talk about specifically just your situation and try and summarize to make this all clear. So the situation is that you're currently consuming in what would be considered to be like, you're mostly eating plants, but you're also eating animal products sometimes, and you don't see a problem with eating animal products sometimes, or in general you don't see a problem with eating animal products in
In
general.
general,
You see a problem with how it's being done, but
100%.
there is no, but to be clear here, there's no better way of doing it. That is
I
you
would
know,
agree with that.
according, sorry.
I would agree with you.
Right. So
I would agree.
that is the way it's done. And if you don't agree with how it's done, then you don't agree with it. Full stop. Really, because there's not a better way to do it. It is what it is. You shoot them in the head, slit their throat. It's the
Yep.
quickest.
I would agree
It's
with you, and that's
still
why I say people just accept it
right. Fine.
and without
But
asking questions.
although you don't agree with it, you still you don't agree with it, but you don't see a problem with it because they don't have moral agency. Therefore, they're not deserving of being defended by you. They don't deserve your help, your defense, because they don't have moral agency. And the only way to get you to actually do something about this and to say, no, this is, I will stop this completely, is if they were removed from society or if the government told you to stop it. Even though you don't agree with it, the only reason you would stop it is if the government told you to, or if they were removed from society. Is this a better representation?
I think that's more fair, but to add in there, I'd say it's also because I believe that there are benefits to animal product consumption. Um, again, not a doctor, but there's
Yeah.
documentation to say as such, just like there's documentation to say that say that those things are harmful or carcinogenic or whatever the word is, or carcinogen.
Yeah.
There are documentations that oppose and contrast each other.
Yeah.
So I would just say that I understand that I believe from from my readings and from listening to certain things, and I listen to everything. I try to, and I listen to both sides. That there are tangible benefits to animal products being in a human diet.
Sure. I mean, there are tangible benefits to a lot of things. We've been through this already. There's the it's non-consensual violence. Is it justified because it brings us benefits? I guess you would answer yes, because they are not moral agents, right? But then you wouldn't apply that same logic to a human that doesn't have moral agency, because they're a human and most humans have moral agency. I'm represent. These are the points you brought in. I don't know if you still stand by them, hearing them back.
Sure, those are fairly accurate. Yeah, I mean, I didn't say it like that, but yeah.
I mean, that's
no, that's how you digest it. So I get it. That's how it comes back. So I get it.
I mean, I'm just putting it all together so that it's
Right.
clear. And if on the face of it you don't like how it sounds, then I mean, I'm not making it sound any worse than it is. I'm just telling you, like, that is how it is. You know, I'm using your logic here to try to understand where you're coming from and what your logic is. So you standing that is the logic that you. Am I wrong? If I'm wrong, tell me. If there's something I've missed there, then please clarify it.
Say it one more time.
So there are benefits. You're saying there are benefits to using and
First, do
consuming
you
animals.
deny that there are or aren't?
No, they're probably, yeah. There's convenience, pleasure. There's benefits.
Okay.
Like I said, there's benefits. There's benefits to me going out and stealing money off someone. I benefit massively, but they don't, right? But that's
Sure.
not moral according to you, because they're a moral agent. However, if I do that to an animal, like I kill them and steal their fur, then that is moral, because they're not a moral agent. Like, their suffering doesn't matter because they are not a moral agent, and it's my benefit that's more important. This is the argument you're making.
I don't think that it is or isn't moral. I never said that it was moral to.
Oh, you said it's
hurt
okay.
animals.
Okay, well, you said
I
you
know
would do it. So you
because
support
when
it.
we say that again, we're gonna splice it, and then I look
I
a certain way by saying that it's moral.
fine.
And
Forget
I
the
don't
word.
agree.
Fine.
No,
Forget the
but
word
words,
moral.
but words.
Yeah. Okay.
matter.
Fine. But
Words
I'm
matter.
retracting it. Forget the word moral. You're saying that you don't see a problem with that.
On the surface. No.
Right. Okay. Because they're not a moral agent, and because it benefits a human, and because they're not a human. So if all those things, the boxes are ticked, they're not a human. They don't have
Because
moral
humans are
agency.
transactional. Because humans are
We can do it.
transactional.
Well, that's an arbitrary point that you've put on things. Like, this is you've decided to see life that way. It's not like
Right.
something that is
But
just is.
but everything
It's
everything
how
that
you view
you're
life.
right. But everything that you're saying is subjective, regardless. Like I
Oh no,
said
it's
those
not.
things.
It's not subjective. It's objective. Like the things I'm taking your points and telling you them back in real life.
No,
This is not
I
like
said
me.
the thing. I said the things that you said. I said the things that you said, not the things that are saying back to me. I said the things that
Sure.
you said.
Well, that which bits are subjective? Which bits are you taking issue with at the minute? I'm lost.
Oh, I don't take issue with it. What I'm saying
Right.
to say that something is subjective
Yeah.
or to not fully agree with something does not mean that it's a contentious situation.
It's a way to weasel out of accepting that something is bad. It's by saying it's subjective.
Right, but that's also
Object.
because I understand that things aren't black and white, and we're just and I accepted the fact that from your end, regardless of anything, if you had a piece of chicken once a year, you view that as evil. That's bad. You're an immoral
Well,
person.
yeah, of
Blah blah
course.
blah blah.
Of course it
So
is.
like, all right,
Because it's
okay,
violence in
no,
exchange for pleasure.
right, but I accept that premise. But with that premise, there's no gray area. So you're suggesting that you live without gray, that you live without context, you live
Because there's
without,
a victim, yeah. Because there's a
sure,
victim
sure,
involved. Absolutely,
sure.
yeah. It's not
And
gray as to whether they
right,
suffer or not.
and again, I said in this stream as well that
Yeah.
I think people need to understand that for someone to have meat, something has to die. I said that. I like
Sure.
all of these talking points.
Yeah.
I bring up and I say because that's true.
Right.
That's true, but that doesn't mean that it is or isn't wrong. That's
I mean,
that's where the discussion comes into play. That's
according to the animal that goes through all of that, then they would definitely say it's always wrong.
Gotcha.
But according to your position, they don't have enough value for you to consider it wrong.
Sure.
Even so, their pain doesn't matter. Their suffering doesn't matter.
Right.
Yeah.
Does a camper that get killed by a bear, does that matter?
Well, they don't have a choice. They don't have moral
Well, okay, see,
agency.
but there we
They,
go. Right,
yeah.
exactly. So,
But they don't. So,
so the
but
same.
you're not a
Hold on, hold
bear.
on, hold on.
You're
Hold
not a
on,
bear.
hold on.
You're not a
But
lion. It's an
never
irrelevant
said I was
point.
a lion. Never said I was a bear.
Then why are
What
you
I'm
bringing a
saying
bear up? How is it
because
relevant?
you already said the point that they're not a moral agent. They can't
No,
make decisions. So that's
no.
why I don't think that they should be. They're not held to the same standard.
So
I
they
can
just
agree to
okay.
that,
No, I
which means
understand.
they should
Yeah,
be exiled from the human society.
exactly.
I've said that multiple times.
And if they're not exiled, you're going to keep on paying for them to be stabbed in the throat
No,
because
what
they're
I
not
said,
moral agents.
nope, what I said was I understand. The whole point of everything that I said is that I understand why people do it because you've even admitted that there can be benefits to eating animal products. So because of that, people are able to cognitively think, weigh out
Yeah,
the risks and rewards on why they choose to do something.
without
And
considering
not
the victim. Yeah.
exact, but I did say that people vote for things where they don't agree with everything, but they agree with a particular thing that makes them go a certain way. I've said that as well. People
But
may not agree with how animals are farmed. People don't agree with these things. You would find the vast majority of those that eat meat disagreeing with the way that the treatment of animals. But
because they're hypocrites, yeah.
sure, sure,
Which
that's
is
that's fine.
including yourself. Actually, you hold the
That's
position that
fine.
what is happening is wrong,
No,
but then at the same time, no, sorry, you hold the position that you don't like what's happening, but then you
sure.
all at the same time you say you don't think there's
But
anything
that's
wrong
because
with
I
it.
said because I started the premise by saying eating meat just isn't wrong. That's why because I hold that as a belief that it's not wrong. That's
Yeah,
that's why.
yeah, holding it from the perspective of
That's why.
somebody who's not on the receiving end of the violence that comes from the choice to eat meat. Of course, you would say that. Just the same as most men in
Of
some
course, yeah,
countries
yeah, that's fair to say.
don't see a problem with women being oppressed because they're not women, and straight people don't see much of a problem. Some people don't see a problem with gay people being oppressed because they're not gay. It's easy to say I don't see a problem with it when you're not the one who's on the receiving end of the shit that comes from it. It's easy to say that well they're not moral agents when you're a moral agent. Like if you weren't a moral agent, you wouldn't want other people saying you're not a moral agent, so fuck you. I'm going to stab you in the throat. It's easy for us to take this position when we're not the ones on the receiving end of the abuse that comes off it, right? And I feel like
Yeah,
that's kind
sure.
of the
I
position
think
you're taking.
I can accept some of those things because they are true. But animals, the way they're treated, wouldn't change any of those things, whether they were treated well or not, whether they were in.
No, I wouldn't.
So
Whether
no,
treat
hold on. So to bring any of that up is irrelevant because how we treat animals is separate to how you treat people.
that's complete. That point is irrelevant. Of course, it's
It's
different.
uh,
Of course, it's different, but it doesn't change the same thought
it it
processes that
it
go
does it
into
does change
how
it
we get
does
how
change
we.
because it does change because you're suggesting that you should offer human
No, I'm not.
ideals,
That's a
traits,
straw
right?
man. That's not what I said. That's not. That's a
So all
straw
right,
man.
so I apologize if I'm wrong on that. Then could you please tell me what you actually think about those sort of things? How if animals are going to be in human society, how should humans take care of them? Removing using them as an animal product for food for consumption or wearing.
If they're going to if they're going to be in society, how should we
Sure.
what treat
Yes.
them or do with what to do with them?
Right. Right.
We've been through this right at the beginning. The first steps are to remove them from the systems and stop humans from depending on them for pleasure, convenience, entertainment, which would drastically reduce the amount of them that there are. And
Sure.
this doesn't happen in one day anyway. It would happen over a long time because there's billions of people, and they're not all just going to one day decide to, they all agree on this. Eventually, there'll be very, very small numbers of them, very small populations
Hmm.
of them. And at that point, the people who are alive then, which probably won't be you and me, are going to have to make a decision on what they do as to whether they put them and keep the populations of them in sanctuaries or probably zoos or whatever, or whether they
Does
decide to
David
let
believe?
one second, whether they decide to let them go extinct,
Right.
which I actually would elect for that option.
Sure.
I think
Sure.
they should be. I think they should go
All right.
extinct.
So does David? Do you believe that animals should be a part of human society?
The animals.
I think that's important because if you're going to eliminate these the current use of animals
Yeah.
within society the way that they are, what do you presume should actually be done? Not what do you think would be done? What do you feel? What do you feel
All the
that
domestic
humans should still take care of them?
all of domesticated animals that are currently in all these systems that we've created them in, they should be extinct. They're not
Okay.
animals that are going to have they have health problems. Chickens, for
Right.
example, they're not even they're bred in such a way that they're not even they don't live anywhere near the lifespan they're supposed to. They have horrible issues. I think it'd
Hmm.
be better to let them go extinct and stop breeding them and stop them from breeding and remain with the versions of them that live in the wild, because these animals can't live in the wild. You can't just release domesticated cows and chickens and pigs into the wild. It won't work. They'll die, they'll suffer, or they'll fuck up all the other ecosystem for all the other animals because they're domesticated and they're not supposed to be out there. They should be extinct. They should never have been created by us in the first place. In terms of dogs, cats, it's probably along the same lines. Actually, it's never going to happen because dogs and, well, the
Right.
systems that breed them, I think they should absolutely stop. The people selling them, breeding them, the ones
Right.
that we still have, we should stop breeding them. And I guess, yeah, eventually the same thing would happen. Those breeds, if people stop breeding them, selling them, they would also go extinct. And I think also that would be good too. I think it would better for these animals to not exist and for us. So in one aspect, I agree with your kind of idea of they do their thing, we do our thing, and that's how it is. I think that's probably where it'll go eventually if people do
Right.
become
And
at the
I
point
agree
where they
with
are
that. Yeah.
ethical. And I
Right.
think that I would
And
like that. But the
I would
point
like that as
is,
well.
well, the point is, and the point we need to keep going back to, and where I take issue with individuals, yes, we agree on the ideal point to get to, but what we're stuck on here, and what we're going to have to keep going back to, is it's I don't think it's defensible for someone to be contributing to these industries that do this to animals now simply because it benefits them personally, because they don't see them as having any kind of value. And as I said, it's not different. It's no different than a human who sees another human as having lower value. Like humans, some humans in the past, I won't say name which types because I know you don't want to get into that, and it's fine. I don't like making those comparisons anyway. But there are some humans in the past that viewed other humans as the same level as animals, and they called them animals. So it's not a crazy idea to imagine. You said it's different. It's actually not that different. Only a couple of hundred years ago were some humans referred to as the same level as animals. They were the same level as an animal on the street, but they were human, right? So it's not crazy to imagine. And those people would say the same things. Well, they were this, they're not like me, therefore they don't deserve moral consideration. The argument you're using is they don't have this thing that I've attributed value to, moral agency, so they don't deserve any kind of, they don't deserve the minimal respect to not have their throat slit for a sandwich, right? Because they don't have that thing. This kind of activity, this kind of moral, this kind of logic we've put on things throughout history over and over again to different groups of individuals, different groups of humans. We're still doing it now, except, some people do it to other humans, but most humans do it to other animals. It is comparable, and it's really, I don't understand how we don't come to the point where we realize we're making the same mistakes as those people did, and we are all so assured of ourselves that, oh, they don't have moral agency. You're so sure of this. Those people were so sure that these other people were animals, right? They were so sure of themselves, just as sure as you are right now that these animals don't have moral agency, so they don't deserve consideration. I don't get, how do we not learn from mistakes of other people?
Well,
You know?
I've always said everything is subjective and opinion. But in those cases in which you're talking about, there's a lot of context in terms of what one group of people will think about another group of people. Um, so that I can't really speak on that. I don't compare humans to animals in that aspect. The only thing I do is just say one is a moral agent and one isn't. And that's kind of how it sort of ends. I can't I don't view them the same. I don't view them the same.
Well, that's, I
But
mean,
again, that
yeah.
doesn't mean that I said that their abuse or the way that they are farmed. Again, I'll reiterate again. Then I
Yeah.
say that the way that they are farmed and the way meat is procured should be done that way, and is okay.
But you'll
And
support
again,
it. But you'll support it unless it becomes illegal or unless they're eradicated from society. So that you're saying two things can be true at the same time, but in this case, they can't. Like that is a contradictory position to hold. you're either against it and you don't fund it, or you're for it and you fund it. There is no, this isn't a gray area here. Like, it is black and white.
That's subjective to your ideals and the way that you live,
It's
but that's
objective.
not
It's objective.
it.
It's reality. It's, if you don't like
It's
it, then you have to
it's
decide which one you are. You can't hold
it's
both
no,
positions.
it's subjective, but I don't feel bad. It's subjective. I don't think that they should be treated the way that they are. I agree with
But you
that.
pay for that, though. That you're funding that. You're supporting that. So I don't get how
Uh,
you can disagree with it and support it.
potentially, but don't view that as I don't view paying for something like that as in the way that I do it as an actual problem. It's really not, because I would go to the wild and do the same thing and have hunted and all that other stuff. And um, when you like, I'll put it to you like this: if you killed one buffalo, you'd be able to eat up, or one deer, or something like that. You'd be able to eat off of that one animal for an entire year. I think that's less harmful to the environment, less harmful to animals if more people, well, maybe not more people, but if people actually did that, the people that could actually handle that sort of thing would actually do that. If you eliminate it, I said this before, I think we should eliminate all of these factory farming and everything like that, because 99% of people would not be able to do um, would not be able to do what it took to actually procure their own meat. And I feel that that's the way that it should be. If you would surmise that humans are animals as well, we're just a different type of animal. Um, some ideals that animals are able to, or some actions that animals are able to do, humans should be able to do as well. Um, So I would just put it such as that. So if an animal is able to kill, because again, I also said in the beginning that I don't think these animals have a beautiful life if they're not in society. Even you would admit that if all of these animals were to be released, they would all be slaughtered uh, fairly quickly through through those animals that actually exist in the wild. So their fate would essentially be the same. um, the only difference is we would not make any more, and I would actually be fine with that. And then if you went out into the wild to procure meat that way,
Yeah.
um, then I would say that that's it's not right or wrong, but it's you know
Yep, I think I just need to. I mean, there's a lot of talk, but I think it's just important. Just I think we just kind of summarize again, and I think that's pretty much the end of the conversation. I don't see where we can go from here. I think we probably about 30 minutes ago we got to the end of it, and that again, one more time, you've held that you hold the view, you draw the line that because they don't offer you personally offer you any value, and because they don't have moral agency, you've drawn an arbitrary line there that they don't have that, and you don't see them as valuable to you. Therefore they are deserving of what happens to them. Or if that you don't agree with it, but you also don't see it as, you say it's okay to do this to them, but you don't agree with how it's done to them, but you're still happy to pay for how it's done to them.
right.
And if that wasn't happening, you would still kill them because you don't see them as having the value, because they can't offer you something in return, and you believe that everything is transactional. So if they don't offer you value and they don't have moral agency and they're not a human, they deserve that, basically. That's their pain and their suffering, what they go through, it matters, but not enough for you to not do that to them and to not support it because of those things. Like, you say it matters, but this is the point where I said, like, you say, listen to what you're saying, but what you're saying is it matters, but then what you're doing is that it doesn't matter. It's like, it matters, but also it doesn't matter enough for me to do something about it. But yes, it does matter. It sounds like it almost, and this is back to
It
what we
sounds
said
like
earlier
inaction.
about.
No, what it sounds
No,
like
it's not
is
inaction.
it sounds
It's
like inaction.
it sounds like a lack of empathy based on the fact that just because they are not, don't hold the things that you deem to be important, which is why I said earlier, it surprises me that you have such a lack of empathy for
Hold
them.
on,
But
don't
just
bring
but
up
that but
children.
that
Just don't. Nope, don't do that.
yeah,
Don't be that person that does that. Okay,
does
we're
what?
having a
Sorry,
don't be the person that brings up someone else's children.
I didn't bring up
Okay,
your children. I said
they're
I
not
didn't. I
okay.
said I was.
Don't
I said
okay.
I
Just don't
feel
go
like
that
actually.
sort of route.
Yeah, well, I think the reason that's actually irked you as much as it has is because you don't like the idea that someone thinks you're not empathetic, but in reality, You're not. Well,
No,
you're very coldly telling me they deserve what
no,
they
the
go through
reason
because they don't have something that you think is important.
no, the reason why it bothers me is because I know most people wouldn't say that to me, to my face. Like
What?
we're not here together. That's why. Like it's easy to say a lot of things. It's That's why I don't get into arguments online. I
Yeah,
say stuff and I always say that I want to talk to people because you're all the way in another country. And I know a lot of the things and the tones in which we speak would
yeah,
not happen in person. And it's because we know as humans, especially as men, when you talk to each other, there's always a low level threat of violence.
sure.
If you go a certain way when you speak to people, you know that things can turn left and you don't control every aspect. And that's why I don't like to argue. But that's
Yeah.
why I don't want to bring up my children and stuff like that. It has nothing to do with whatever it is that you're going to say. It's because it's easy for you to say what you're going to say online because I know it wouldn't happen in person.
It would happen in person because at the end of the day, I'm bringing up a point that you find it to be contentious, but to somebody watching, I think it's important that if you know you. It's surprising. I would expect this kind of rhetoric to come from someone who doesn't give a fuck about anyone, but you clearly do give a fuck about people. You do clearly do give a fuck about your family. You've already mentioned, your family. You mentioned them because you're a family man. I'm not bringing this up to piss you off. I'm bringing it up because I find it surprising that a family man would have a lack of empathy towards other beings that are just as innocent as his own family. It's not supposed to piss you off, but if it does piss you off, I'd say you need to look in the
No,
mirror
no,
maybe and
it's
take a
not.
look
No,
and
it's
figure
not
out
about.
why it's pissing you off. And I
No,
would
it's not
say it to
about
your
pissing
face.
off.
And if
No,
it
it's
pissed
not
you off
about
so
it.
much,
It's
hold
not
up,
about
hold up.
pissing
If
off.
it pissed you off
It's
so much, if it pissed you off so much in a face-to-face environment that you would feel the need to be violent as a result of that, for words would make you want to be violent. Then, in all honesty, man, that's not my problem. That's something for you to handle and deal with. I am not saying anything that should provoke you to that level. If this resulted in
again,
that, then
that's subjective. That's subjective because what you're saying could be viewed as hate speech, right? From your end, you think that you are 100% in the right in everything that you're saying, and that's where the problem comes in. You think everything that you're saying is right, and that is
not at all. I've acknowledged many things
true.
that you've pointed out that
It's
I did
not.
that I re went over, and the point is, man, the clear point is that you're finding to be contentious is that I'm pointing out your hypocrisy and inconsistency when it comes to the animals, and you're telling me it's subjective and that's my
Right.
position and
But
that's
that's
my
also
opinion.
because I've
It's
always
objective.
acknowledged from the beginning
Yeah,
that two things can be held true and that things are wrong. And
yeah.
I there are a lot of
But not,
things
when- not when these
that
two
I
things
would
are an example of
concede on.
cognitive dissonance and someone holding two contradictory positions that something is wrong,
But
but
you
not
can
wrong
if
enough that they would
nothing
pay for it.
but you can if something offers zero utility to you in return. A wild boar wouldn't think the same way of you that you think of it. A bear wouldn't think
Yeah.
the same way of you that you think of
All right,
it.
man.
Like none of these animals that
Yeah.
that would harm a human
Yeah.
would think the same way.
Right. No, totally got it, right? I've got it.
They
No,
wouldn't have
totally,
the
man.
same sort of empathy or feeling towards you.
You're right. You're right. You're totally right. So fuck them, right? Stab them in the
No,
throat. It's all good because they don't have that. That's basically your
I've
logic.
no.
Look, bro, I think we're done here. Thank you
I've
so
never
much for tuning in, man. We're gonna cut it there because we're just going around in circles and it's kind of pointless. I'm sorry if I offended you. That wasn't the intention, but I feel like I did anyway. But this is one thing, man. If you leave, I know you're not gonna leave here and really probably not consider most of the things that have been said because you're very sure of yourself and your opinions and what you believe, and that's whatever, right? I didn't think I was going to change your mind today, to be honest with you, from the first 30 minutes. But if anything, I would say if you're going to go away and think about something, think about why you have to prove that you are empathetic, and why when I said you weren't, did that piss you off to the point where you got annoyed, visibly annoyed, and bringing up your children. I didn't bring that up in any way to offend you or any way to attack you. I brought it up because, as I said, I expect. Maybe I'm just fucking wrong. I'm hopelessly optimistic. I expect people who are family people to care about the families of others. What I don't expect is for them to say, well, those other animals' families don't matter because they don't have something that I consider to be important, like moral agency. But I only consider it to be important if it's in the animals or not if it's in the humans or not. It's just a roundabout way of saying I don't give a fuck about them because they're not like me, and they can go and whatever. I'll pay for them to suffer and die, and their suffering is more important. That's practically what we've got to. If that bothers you, that I say that you're not empathetic because of that, that's not my problem, man.
No,
That's
I don't
yours.
worry about you saying about me not being empathetic. I just don't think you should bring up my children.
Sure. Well,
I
There you
mean,
go, man. Yeah,
that's just basically what it is. Because my children didn't get on this live stream with you. My children never said anything to you. And
sure.
again, and you don't even understand. You don't even know what my kids do or don't eat, or what they do or
I'm,
don't hold,
I
or what the beliefs are. You're just full of assumptions.
Sure,
You're
man,
full
but you're not
of
stabbing your
you're
kids in the throat or paying for that. So obviously, I'm not. My concern
yeah.
isn't what your kids are doing or not doing. My concern is these other animals and their kids and what you're paying for those to happen to them. Which is why I've focused on them for 99% of this and mentioned you being a family man, once, and it was enough to cause this reaction.
No,
But anyway,
actually,
dude,
no. It was
look,
either the second or third time. But here,
yeah,
because the first
right,
time I didn't say anything. I didn't say anything the first time because I understood the conversation and the context. But to constantly bring it up, you're trying to harp
sure,
on a point and just be disrespectful.
sure,
And but here's the thing. Um, I do want to say this. I
yeah,
apologize for any sort of contention that was within the your live stream. This is your platform, and I hope I didn't disrespect it in any way. And if I did, I apologize to you and to anyone in the chat. Um, I thank you for allowing me to speak. It's been 2 hours. I wasn't even sure you were going to allow that much.
sure.
So I thank you for that, and I thank you for allowing me to have a closing statement without interjection. It means a lot. Um, and yeah, I wish you the best. Thank you.
Sure, man. Thanks. All right. Yeah, but guys, sorry about that. I guess kind of came down into kind of what is it? Regressed into kind of circles, really circular logic, and kind of round and around. I shouldn't have let it go that far. Sorry about wasting a lot of time. But yeah, 2 hours worth, huh? At least it's some entertainment for you guys anyway. If anything, but look, if watching that, if you guys, if anyone's watching this as a non-vegan and sees this, I hope you would see that, if you are not a vegan, then this is the kind of logic you agree with. You agree with the logic that just because someone is an animal doesn't have something that you have, whether it be intelligence or, I don't know, the ability to speak a human language, moral agency, that it is okay for you to then stab them in the throat. If that's a position you hold, then you're holding the same position as all the other humans throughout history who have done that to other humans for as long as time has been, since beginning of records began. Like, oh, you're a different skin color, therefore you're not the same as me, therefore I can do this to you. You're not the same gender as me, so I can do this to you. You're not the same country as me, so I can do this to you. This is just the same bullshit from all of that applied now to animals. And if, like Dominic, if you don't like how that looks on the face of it, you can either try and justify it and desperately go over and over and try and justify it and as to why it's not the same and get upset that, oh, it isn't the same. It isn't the same. You're making it sound the same. Or you can suck it up and say, you know what, you're right, and do something about it and stop paying for it, stop funding it, stop being a part of that mentality that has plagued humanity since forever, right? Let me go through the super chats anyway. Guys, thank you so much. I can see quite a lot of them. Where are we up to here? What date is it today? 2nd of May. All right. Okay. Indra, there is such an undertone of aggression towards animals and life in general. I agree. Beautiful words, David. Thank you again, Indra. Thank you so much. Mark J, thank you, David, for this nauseating reminder that animals will be enslaved and tortured for a long time to come. Empathy. Yeah, Mark. I know it's depressing, man. When seemingly reasonable people come up with such unreasonable arguments. Trash Carcass, humans are the only ones that have broken the coexisting social contract on this planet. That's true. Yeah, there's no coexistence here. We have enslaved other species and for our benefit. So yeah. Pig Bigwig says Dominic is a meat eater, vegan, non-judging, judging a bear, a bird, and a human all at the same time. Trash Carcass again, as a moral agent, you are obligated to have morals. True. Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, I don't really know how to close this one out, guys. Disappointing and quite tiring as well. But I hope, I don't know, maybe it was useful for you guys, maybe it wasn't. I hope that there are some of you who are not vegan who have watched this and had a bit of a kind of a wake up maybe as to the kind of, who would you rather stand behind, really, I guess? Who would you rather support in this kind of debate? Would you rather support me, the person who's trying to stop people from doing this to animals, animals that maybe don't have moral agency, they don't have the ability to say what's right and wrong, but they do have the ability to suffer and want to live just the same as me and you. And you can deny they have morals, but you can't deny that they feel pain and suffer, and you can't deny that it's completely unnecessary. So do you want to support that, and do you want to be vegan, or do you want to support Dominic with the agenda, with the rhetoric that because they don't have the ability to make moral decisions, we're justified in whatever we want to do to them? That's basically your two arguments. That's kind of the summary of the whole thing, to be honest with you. I see another super chat, Artemis. Hey, really didn't say hey. Really great debate. Thanks, David and Dominic. Cool. Glad you enjoyed it. Anything going on here? Yeah, you know what? Like, it's pretty crazy. I was expecting to have a more productive conversation here. To be honest with you guys, I was expecting to be a little bit more. I don't know. I thought we'd have more. I thought it'd be more productive. If anyone has any idea of maybe where it went wrong, maybe you could break this down. That could be cool. Like if anyone wants to, I don't know if any of you guys are YouTubers, but if you wanted to do like a breakdown of this debate on your channel, I would appreciate that. I'd watch that, like a breakdown of where it went wrong and which arguments were good, which were bad, stuff like that. I don't know if someone wants to help me with that, or maybe you could pick out some highlights and send me a list of like timestamps that you think I should look into, maybe to do some highlights and stuff. Yeah, guys, let me know, right? Have a look through it. And remember, look, these t-shirts are on sale, guys. Yeah, I've seen a few of you saying that Dominic was a meat flake. I don't know if I think he's a meat flake as such, but if you're against meat flakes, buy one of these t-shirts. Anti-Meat Flake Social Club. They're up on the website. Same logo is on the back. You can get over there and check it out. davidrams.com. I will send you the link right now. So if you want to pick one of these up. Oh, another super chat from Amanda. Moral agents and moral patients are distinct. I don't know what moral patients are. That's new to me. Let me check. Moral patients. Moral patients. Oh, hey, that's interesting. Moral patients are those... Wait, I can show you. 1 second. I've never heard of this before. I wish I knew about this. I didn't know what he was going to bring up, did I? But we can check it out. Look, moral patients are those individuals who lack either by age, physical or mental condition, etc., the ability to self-legislate or rational autonomy are moral patients. For example, a year-old child lacks the ability to engage in rational self-legislating behavior. The child is a moral patient. Thank you for that. That's actually a really important point that I wish I knew earlier. I've never heard of that before. Never heard of that before. You know what's really irked me, I think, as well? It kind of bothered me a lot about this this stream. There was a lot of things to be bothered about. But one of the things that really bothered me and what bothers me is how people aim to be like, they want to be spoken to as like reasonable, rational people, and they want to be respected. They don't want to be like held accountable. They don't want to be told like you're not empathetic. They don't want to be not attacked, but held accountable. They don't want to be faced with like the kind of conclusion of what they're saying, and they don't expect to be held to it. Now, what it always surprises me, like when it gets to that point, people start getting defensive and stuff, and it's like we're not waxing lyrical about some crazy philosophical idea. We're talking about literal life or death. Like, this isn't a discussion as to, for example, whether we should keep dogs on leashes or keep them on a harness. You put them in a harness or put them with a collar. Like that, yeah, we can have a good long discussion about that. What's good for them, what's bad for them. We're talking about whether or not we systematically breed, abuse, and kill animals or not. It's not something that's like you can just be, completely chill and like, if someone's like, yeah, I think we can totally do it because they don't have this thing that I think is important. Like, how you expect someone to be like chill about that, especially a vegan? Like, can you imagine if I brought someone on this channel who was an advocate for something, And then I was just like something as, not something as serious as this, right? And I was like, well, they don't have this thing that I think is important. So I think it's totally fine that we can do this horrible thing to them. To expect that other person is just like, oh, that's a really good point. Yeah, cool. And say that if they aren't like that, you say, well, you get upset that they won't give up their position. Like, I feel like multiple times Dominic was kind of upset that I wouldn't give up my position, or not upset, but like pointing out that like, yeah, well, you think it's all wrong. So, your mind's never going to be changed. It's like, we're not talking about flavors of milkshakes. Like well, of course you're not going to change your position on what flavor milkshake is best because you love chocolate. It's like, no, dude, I'm not going to change my position that needlessly abusing and killing animals is wrong, because needlessly killing, abusing animals is wrong. Like, how could you ever expect me to change on that? And why the fuck are you not changing your position and coming and saying, yes, it is wrong, actually, and we should fucking stop it? How could I it's not about having a moral high ground. It's about being a reasonable, rational person and saying it doesn't need to happen, causes pain and suffering, so we just stop it. There's no reason that you wouldn't stop it. Yes, it benefits you now to do it, but that's not enough to keep doing it. It's not a good enough reason. It feels good. It's not a good enough reason. Wild, guys. Wild. I don't know what's going on with this ghost mod, guys. I see a lot of you talking about it. There's like some moderator thing here. Myself and Annie are not blocking anyone apart from if they're trolls. We're not timing anyone out. I don't know what the fuck's going on. Apparently YouTube has decided it needs to moderate my chat. No idea why. I'll look into it, see if it's happening to anyone else, but please understand it's not me. All right, so I'm very sorry about that. No idea what's going on, guys. No idea. Thank you, AMLE. I see you've just made a contribution via the Streamlabs link. She says, great arguments as always. Thank you so much, AMLE. Really, really appreciate your contribution. Remember, guys, use the link Streamlabs. It's much better than Super Chat because they take a smaller cut. Thank you for people who've pointed it out to me in the past. And I realize now how much of a smaller cut it is. It is a much smaller cut, but whatever's easier for you, right? If you want to use Super Chat, use Super Chat. If you can use Streamlabs, please do use Streamlabs. And guys, yeah, again, I have no idea what's going on with the chat. Very sorry about that. Can't do anything about it right now. I changed a few settings. I hoped that would help. It didn't. I'll work on it. What have I got to tell you? On Wednesday of this week coming, there will be a new video. It's going to be quite a funny video. If you're interested in what the video is going to be, kind of what's going to look like and stuff like that, you could check out the Patreon exclusive video that my partner Annie just put up. If you are in the Patreon team, you can see that right now. It'll give you a bit of an idea of what's coming. It's a skit, but it's going to be a skit that is very much like strong, ethical, moral argument kind of skit, like bit different, kind of funny, but also not funny. It's going to be a weird one. I don't know if it's going to be like, I don't know if you're going to like it or not. We'll see. I've never tried this kind of thing exactly like this before, but you can get some behind the scenes of that if you go on Patreon right now. If you join the Patreon team, patreon.com/David Rams. I'll put it in there now. If you want to get like an exclusive preview of this new video coming on Wednesday. And I believe we'll have another pretty cool live stream coming on Sunday. It's not going to be a debate. I don't think. But I hope. Well, we'll see. But I hope, because Eid is coming up, the Muslim festival Eid, and at Eid they do like a massive, killing of animals. I'm hoping I'll be able to bring on a Muslim vegan animal rights activist who will come on and we'll discuss Eid, and he'll drop some bombs and hopefully convince some people not to go and kill animals for Eid. So that will be really cool coming on Sunday. So that'll be really good. What else do I have to tell you? Oh, yeah. And if you're not already doing this, guys, you should be doing this. Every single product that you buy as a vegan, every single dinner you buy in a restaurant as a vegan, you can make money for animal sanctuaries without spending more money. Pretty cool, right? Every single one of them. So say you buy a meal in a restaurant, you can make money for an animal sanctuary just by buying the meal. Say you buy products at the supermarket that are vegan, you can make money for an animal sanctuary just by buying the product. All you've got to do is download an app and make sure you take a picture of the product you're eating or using and review it on the app. And that's it. For every time you do that, every product you review, every meal you review, you can get $1 donated to a sanctuary or charity of your choice. This is the link. It's called A Billion. The link is also in the description. It's right there now in the chat. And check this out. If you enter my referral code on the settings, which is there, David Rams, all capitals, if you enter my referral code in the settings, they will donate $1 for every product review you do, and they'll send me 25 cents as well to help with my work. How awesome is that, right? So download that app and do it. Like, why wouldn't you? Every product, every single product you buy, every single meal you eat, take a picture, put it in the app, $1 to a sanctuary, 25 cents to me. You don't spend any more money. How cool is that? So download it. It's in the description, and enter my referral code, David Rams, all capitals, all the way through. Whew. And Emily's totally right, by the way. My Patreon is cool. Patreon team is definitely cool. We have these monthly Patreon exclusive calls. You get Patreon exclusive behind the scenes content. You get cool reviews, previews and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. So do go and check that out. Guys, it's been 2.5 hours. I'm a little bit tired. I won't lie to you. We've got some videos coming this week. We're going to be going live again. I've got another topic I want to get into that maybe we'll do tomorrow. Maybe we'll do it on Tuesday. The topic is going to be, why does veganism attract extremists? Contentious, huh? That is a topic, right? Why does veganism attract extremists? It's not what the kind of extremists you're thinking about, but veganism does attract extremists. And I'm going to go through it on Monday or Tuesday, maybe Thursday. I haven't decided yet. We're going to go live. It'll be a live, like unlisted live. Just be me and you guys. I'm going to maybe take some clips from it. Maybe, don't know. But anyway, we're going to do that. It's going to be an interesting one. Hope you guys are going to come over for that and check it out, because it's a topic that's been bothering me for a while. I think it's really important we address this within the kind of within veganism. We address that it's happening and we do something about it. I think it's about time we spoke about it. So thanks again, everybody, for joining. Good night if you're like Saurabh and you're in India, I assume. Good afternoon. Have a good afternoon if you're somewhere else. Have a good evening if you're somewhere else. Have a good morning if that's morning for you. Thanks all so much. See you in the next live stream or the next video. Yeah, that's the only two types of videos I do. See you in the next live stream or the next video. Thanks for joining this.